commercial first.
Thank you. Finance Committee, October 1st, continuation of the meeting from last night. We're continuing to work on the warrant. Again, I have to apologize for the short notice to everybody. I didn't get the warrant until Tuesday, mid-Tuesday, and I know that doesn't give people a lot of time to come here, but we're on the time constraints to get a report to the town clerk by next Friday. So we are moving along. All right, so we have on tap tonight, Sue, library first.
What article?
As I promised, the library, Article 26. Article 25 was already vetted by the capital committee, correct, Albert?
Yes, sir.
So I'll take a motion on 25.
Is there a recommendation?
Yeah, it was positive, favorable.
I still need a motion.
Motion,
Second.
Any discussion?
How much money are we talking about?
30.
30K.
It's actually about 28, but we put 30
It's
just
for a
in
bunch
case.
of stuff. Okay.
Just gotta put a number with it.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're line itemed, so it won't be like you're spending 30. There are specific lines. It just seemed safer to put the extra $1,500 or $1,700 in. But we won't expect it spent if we don't have to.
No.
All right, so all in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right, Article 26 was not on the long-term or the 5-year capital plan, and it's to replace the fence at the library for $12,000.
It was on my long-term capital planning. I put it in,
But
but there was some discussion about the fence.
Mr. Chairman? Yes. Well, the library subcommittee meeting met with the library director about a month ago, I guess it was, right? We talked about these items, including the fence, the sustained damage that the fence took from our bad winter last year, the ice that came off the roof and broke the fence, and the fence is also between the library and there's a daycare center.
Yeah, plus we hit the Baptist church on Pine Street, the synagogue on Pine Street. So basically, the fence has been there since about, I'd say, the 1980s, 1986.
The new library was.
Yeah, when the new library was constructed, and it's taken a lot of beating over those 30-plus years. And I have pictures I've given to the subcommittee that shows how it's worn, there's places that are splintered, and it did take a lot of damage when we had the bad snow this past winter.
so
I have more if you need them.
We agreed that the fence needs to be replaced. The question was what kind of a fence to put on.
That's my question.
She would like to replace it with the fence that's there now, essentially, a wide board type fence.
A wooden fence?
so my question is, whose fence is it?
It's ours.
It's the town's.
It's town, it's right on the property border.
But the nice side faces the library. So when we put a new fence in, the rules say you have to put the nice side facing out, right?
I'll make sure the nice side is on our side. I'll
can
make
do it.
sure.
Well, I don't know about that, but
The church and
the new fence, it should be a nice side of both sides.
Yes, sir.
I think the fundamental question is not what prettiness or why do we have a fence at all? Because what we went through is there a need for a fence? Then what's the need? Why don't we just, I mean, it's ugly, okay. Bulldozer takes care of ugly. It becomes pretty, it's gone. But the fundamental question I think Sue should address is, why do we need a fence?
Basically, it's security, and we've talked about it, that it also blocks off, people coming back and forth through the library property. And we've had before where I didn't have fencing on the sides of the back of the building, I found debris that shouldn't be there. And kids were getting back there and they were doing damage. And also the kind of debris that's out there right now, bottles and, a lot of stuff that's out there could also hurt somebody. So it's security besides being pretty on our side of the fence.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Why the wooden fence?
Well, we did spec out wood and vinyl.
Okay, how about chain link?
We talked about that.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
I had a different situation where I had chain link around the garden perimeter. Like 2 years ago, I did that to protect the plants in the gardens. And it wasn't a good reaction. People felt that there was no aesthetic value to the chain link. It made it look very tawdry, is a nice way to put it. And it just didn't work. So this time, I want to keep what we have now, which is wood, and I think that's the best fit.
I'm looking at that. If that doesn't look tawdry, nothing does.
No, the wood
And-
doesn't, but the chain link is not the best solution.
I realize it's old, but when living with something like that, I don't understand why we couldn't live with a chain link fence.
Believe me, I had a situation 2 years ago when I did use black chain link fence, and the reaction that I got back from everybody was not good. So I want to go with what we have.
Is that chain link there?
That is over on the church side.
I see. I think something more durable than the wood would be appropriate, in my opinion.
Yeah, but I think chain link is not the best solution in this point, for this particular fence.
I can't imagine that wood is a far better product.
Well, I also spec'd out vinyl.
Well, that vinyl, we would have to cut a lot of the money to, the vinyl has to be 3 times what you're asking.
It was about $3,000 more.
Yeah, well, about 3 times what you're asking. Right.
Where is that picture taken?
That was in the back. That's in the back near the the AC system, and where the church property abuts our property in the back.
It's not looking from the parking lot.
No, it's not. Frankly, I don't think where the parking lot is the best use of our money by doing it by chain link. You'll have a lot more complaints, and also, it doesn't look good. Believe me, I've had this discussion before, and it wasn't pleasant.
What's the difference in cost between the chain link fence and a wooden fence?
I didn't spec that out because I wanted wood. I checked out wood and vinyl.
Move.
Any discussion? Any other discussion?
I think we need a new fence. I mean, I was reluctant, Mr. Chairman, but we've looked at the fence, it's 30 years old, we need to replace it.
The move is favorable.
I understand that, it was just one last point of discussion, so.
All in favor?
Well, thank you very much, I appreciate
Nice
it.
fence, Sue.
Yeah, thank you, and everybody will like the fence. We'll put it on the good side.
What's
They're
the-
both, they should both be good sides, as someone said.
Yes, I agree.
So if we get this article passed, when does the fence go in?
I don't have an ETA on that.
You gonna put it in before the winter or after the winter?
I would like to do it before the winter.
I would do it after the winter.
Do it after the winter, okay. I'm willing to wait,
Could be a bad winter.
Let
Yeah.
snow fall on the old one.
okay. I'll do that, as long as you don't mind waiting a little bit.
I could have waited another 5 years.
That's what I like about you.
Mr. Chapey, the point about these articles is if we're gonna appropriate money, they should use the money.
I agree.
And that's what I tried to do.
Just to put in the minutes, what turned our committee around was when Sue said, without a fence,
It is dangerous.
kids are hanging there and there's syringes, and then other kids run through the back. So that was the driving force why the subcommittee agreed we should have a fence. Because up until then, we thought it would be pretty, but we didn't care.
Voted yes.
But if it came down to syringes and kids cutting through,
We've already approved it.
We already
but I want it in the
voted.
minutes. No, I just want it in the minutes.
Right in the minutes.
I appreciate all the help, thank you very much.
You're welcome,
The
Sue.
Finance Committee has always been good to the library, so we appreciate it.
One of us should show up at the library once in a while. Take out
Well,
some
I
notes.
do have a dream, but I'm happy with what we get.
Your dream might become a nightmare if we all.
You're never a nightmare.
Thank you.
Most can't read, so it really doesn't matter.
Anything else you want while the library director's here?
Yeah, I'm good. Jamie, Vernon Grove. Article 13. Article 13, Vernon Grove wants to buy a 2.5-ton dump truck for, a lot of money, $65,000.
Is it 2.5, Mr. Chairman, the,
1 ton, sorry.
1 ton? Okay.
Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Subcommittee have a discussion on that?
This all came about when we had the discussion about the Vernon Grove Cemetery taking on responsibility for the North Purchase Street Cemetery. When they gave that proposal, he did give 2 scenarios in which it could be part-time or full-time, and part of the proposal also was that in order to do the increased labor in the plowing of the other cemetery, because one of his other trucks were getting older, that they needed to replace it, and with the extra workload, that a truck was going to be needed earlier rather than later. So that was brought up at that time, so.
Yeah, the truck it's actually replacing is a 1991 one-ton dump truck that was donated by Enron. I'm a little bit before my time on the committee, but it was donated by Enron. It's 24 years old. It basically cannot drive out of the cemetery anymore. Just to go get gas for it now is pretty much a hassle. It's falling apart. It's not safe. And regardless of North Purchase Cemetery, they need a new one-ton down there. It's vital to the day-and-day operations. We put a leaf box on it. The leaf blowers go on it. That's how it sucks up all the leaves. And as well, now that they're full-time, as everybody here is well aware, we're a self-contained unit now. This has a plow on it. The old truck does not have a plow. We can plow the cemetery with our own men now. Part of the deal also was we'll be taking care of the North Purchase Cemetery. We'll plow that as well with this truck. So, I mean, it's basically just replacing a truck that's no longer safe to drive and is gonna have new value for year-round operations. And the use of a dump truck is, I mean, we could look at a pickup truck, but that can't carry the boxes we have for the leaf suckers and everything, pick up all the stuff and the debris, the loom and materials that get moved at funerals. A dump truck has been there ever since, God, since I was a kid back in the 80s. I don't think we're gonna go backwards and not have a one-ton. It's pretty much vital.
How do you, when you've taken over North Purchase Street Cemetery, you have to mow the lawn there, you have
Yes.
a rider, how do you get that over there?
Well, right now, we were looking at, there's a couple of options. We were looking at pricing out some trailers for the Springtown meeting, or maybe we can deal with it internally with some leftover money we have. Very basic trailer, we're not that far along yet. We're gonna look at that this winter, because we don't have a need for it up until next spring, so we're not talking an exuberant amount of money for that. This one-ton also has all the components for a trailer hitch for a trailer of any size, but we won't be looking at anything that big because, quite frankly, it's not a very big area up at North Purchase. The leaf collection is more the problem at North Purchase. That's really, where the nuts and bolts of the work is up there. And this is a state bid. This is right off the state contract at MHQ. It actually came in a lot higher. We cut a lot of the extra stuff out, stainless steel bodies and whatnot. We did away with all that because, to be honest with you, we're trying to get the best bang for our buck and for the taxpayers as well.
Just out of curiosity, did I hear an extra allocation in the spring that's not on the 5-year plan that was never discussed? I
It's-
just wanna make sure I heard that.
Yeah, we have discussed it internally. We're gonna try and do it with our own money. That's why it's not on the 5-year plan, to be honest with you. When the 5-year plan was drawn up 2 years ago, we had no idea we were taking over North Purchase
I
at
mean,
that
just,
time.
the spring meeting
Yes.
is this year.
Yes,
Fiscally, it's
Fiscal
still.
year 2016,
It's still
yes.
this year.
yes.
So I just wanna make sure that we understand we're allocating all the capital money for this year. It should be an emergency
Mm-hmm.
if you're gonna bring it in May, but this doesn't sound like it. But you can cover it with your own money, that's a good idea.
See?
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
We aim to please over there.
any other discussion?
How much is it?
65,000.
65,000?
Yeah, the cost of trucks are not going down anymore, that's for sure.
Move.
What do you do with, ask what he's gonna do with the old truck?
You can have it, Jack.
Wait,
What do you
let's
do with
get-
the
let
old
me-
truck?
Let me get a second, then you can, do I get a second?
You're not gonna hang on to the old truck, too, are you?
No, standard town
Have a fleet of
protocol,
trucks.
bring it up to the fire station and have an auction on it, like I believe every year or every other year, they have an auction for town vehicles. That would be we're not gonna keep, we have no space for it, and no use for it.
I know Enron's not around anymore.
Yeah, no, they're long
But the
gone.
power plant's still there. Anybody talk to them about donating?
I think that Golden Goose is long since gone.
Question,
Yes, sir?
is there any chance the truck with the plow would be pressing the service during the winter with the plowing fleet?
That is not a problem. This truck is geared for that. It is heavy duty if it is to be called in by the highway department or anybody else if they need it. It has a light package in it that's for safety, to plow on roads. It's ready to go if so deemed by the highway surveyor or anybody else.
Great idea.
Sanding, you're gonna put a sander on the?
No, there is no sander on it. The town has always sanded the cemeteries. I mean, that was an expense I really didn't think we should incur. I mean, my guys can also handle it by hand if it came to that, you know?
Any other? All in favor?
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks, Jim.
Nice to see you.
Personnel Board. Article 2, 3, and 4.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Charlie Abrahamson.
Appreciate you showing up on short notice, Charlie.
Currently, yeah, thanks, that's all right. I don't have the numbers listed here, so I don't know which one is,
I can give them to you.
Okay.
Why don't we start with Article 2?
which is,
Raise and appropriate transfer personnel board fund additional expenses anticipated for the continuance of the classification and compensation study
Okay.
involving salaried and hourly positions of the jurisdiction of the personnel board. And requested amount is $3,000.
correct. The need for this article now is, as you probably remember, we thought we were coming to the board, to the town meeting at the last annual town meeting with the previous study, and due to a number of circumstances, we decided that we were going to table it and come back with a revised study. The Board of Selectmen had asked that we try to look at some other towns that we had not looked at in our previous study, so we've added about 5 other towns. What we were looking for is to update what we've finished, and what we're going to do is review, again, all the job descriptions to make sure that they comply with all the Fair Labor Standards Act. The consultant will also review the current plan to make sure that there's been a number of new positions and new changed positions and new positions totally that have been added since the previous study. So the consultant, will be looking at updating that. As I said, we've sent out a new survey, and we're going to be updating all the financial information that was provided by the survey, and use that to come up with the new median income, which is what's going to base the rest of the plan. The consultant will also come up with some administrative policies that needed to be updated under the new plan, and he will provide an analysis of the financial impact for the new study when it comes before the annual town meeting. And we look to him to help provide a presentation that will be done to the Board of Selectmen, to your board, and to the personnel in the town. So his initial study estimate was $3,000, and that's what we were asking for.
And what did we allocate last year for this? I don't remember. It was about 5,000, I believe. Sorry, Phil.
Something like that. 45,
4,500?
yes.
So this is like redoing the whole thing over again,
No, it's,
pretty much.
okay, if you want to look at it that way.
We'll be surveying the same towns?
No, we added 5 other towns, plus we re-advertised, re-surveyed all the other towns to update all their information.
What's the basis of your survey when you go into these towns? What do you use for a basis, for median? Like per capita income, or?
No, we didn't, that wasn't one of our initial things. The Board of Selectmen had indicated they thought we should look at that. We do not feel that that's, it's something that needs to be looked at, but we felt that for the survey, the real information is what towns are paying the positions. When someone applies for a IT director position or whatever, they're looking at their salary, which, as we can see, we've lost 2 or 3 IT directors because the salary wasn't high enough. The per capita income is a factor, but we didn't feel that that was as much of a factor. We looked at a lot of the towns that were looked at in the previous study, which was done 10 years ago. We updated those, we added some new ones, and then with this new round, we added 5 other towns that we felt met the classifications that the Board of Selectmen were interested in. So hopefully this new study will come up with a range of salaries that will be more in line with what, yes?
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry. I think,
Oh, no, are you,
Yeah, handle
are you
this
done? Chuck? Chuck's the chairman,
Yeah.
that's up to me.
I'm all done.
You're all set. Chris?
Quick question. We spent 4,500 in how many towns? It was a lot when I saw the report. Wasn't it like 15 towns, something like that?
No, it was 13, we added 5 more, so it was.
No,
it was
the original study,
The
the
original
last
was
one.
13, I think. We added 5 more, so we had 18 under the new one.
So we did a study for $4,500 of 13 towns.
Mhm.
We're only doing a study basically of 5 new towns. Is that correct?
Plus updating the.
What is there to update? I mean, the study just got done, didn't it?
Okay.
I mean, what was that, 4 months ago? 5 months ago?
A year ago.
Oh, it's been going on. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know what's been changed in a year, but, so
Oh,
we're
it's-
only adding 5 towns, and it's gonna cost us 3,000, and we got 13 towns for 4,500. I think we're getting a bad deal this time.
Well, okay. What we're also looking at doing is coming up with new policies based on a thing. We have a whole lot of new job descriptions that have changed in the last year. The consultant is going to upgrade those. We are looking at coming up with the impact study that was not provided last time because we were not able to finish our presentation and we were not able to continue. We want to want to come up with a good presentation that will give a good presentation to everybody that's coming up. So there's a number of other things. Again, we were looking at administrative, the administrative policies and stuff. We're gonna look at upgrading some of the other job descriptions and coming up with new job descriptions. And updating all the information. And we feel that this is a reasonable amount of money.
Mr. Chair? I'm a little, pretty much confused with regards to the fact that it was just done a year ago.
Right.
And now we're talking about checking to ensure we don't have anything that's contrary to law in some, you said we had to be sure it's.
No, it's updating the new job descriptions and stuff to see.
How many,
that maybe-
you
There's been a
know,
lot of.
we're
new
only a
positions.
year out. I mean, I think this is the 4th or 5th Personnel Board attempt at coming up with a fair and equitable solution for salaries. Because I go back to the Olney report back in the 1980s. And
Okay.
when we got that Olney report back then, we thought it was wonderful. But I'm concerned because it seems like we didn't really get what you had hoped you were going to get, or what you anticipated you were going to get from the initial $4,500. So I'm just concerned that we're gonna put 3,000 in and nothing else is going to happen again. It's gonna look the same as it does tonight, with maybe some updating as far as when it was last evaluated, so. Are you positive in your mind, is your personnel board positive that this $3,000 is gonna deliver the product that you had hoped to deliver 6 months ago? Or are we going to be visiting again a year from now, and saying, well, we need to upgrade other job descriptions?
This is what we had hoped to have presented at last year's town meeting.
Okay.
Things did not work out. We are now looking at updating everything, getting what we feel the selectmen and other boards have wanted to see, and come up with a new revised study that will, the job descriptions have all been upgraded for most case, and again, so a lot of them, some of the positions have changed. So we want to get that all.
But they're gonna change as we move along. I mean, if, whatever the job
Well,
description
every
is,
year
they're
things
gonna change. We know that's gonna
We know
happen.
that. This study will set the benchmark, it'll set the job descriptions,
Is this, excuse me,
okay,
is this the same same consultant that did the $4,500?
correct.
Were you satisfied with the product that he put out or she put out?
Yes, we were.
Then I have a real problem then. If you're satisfied with the product they put out and the product is flawed in some way, maybe we're looking for something else. I don't know. I mean, I'm just sitting here listening and,
We did not feel it was flawed.
well, then why we need another $3,000 to get it settled out? That's, Mr. Chairman, I've had enough. Thanks.
Have you selected the 5 towns that you are gonna look at already? Have you
They've
just,
already been selected and the studies have been sent.
okay, because as I understand, the reason why, people believe that the study was flawed was that per capita income for Milford was the lowest out of all of the towns you compared it to. So, I guess the question is, are the other 5 towns that you're
The other
looking?
5 are the same as Milford or lower. Again, we did not feel that per capita income is as important a decision-making in coming up with salaries as is what the market analysis shows. Because people will apply for a job not based on what the towns can or cannot pay. They're looking for a job based on what salaries are. That's why we've lost a couple of IT directors, because we did not provide a high enough salary. And the same kind of thing goes with other positions. We look at that's one of the factors.
Okay.
It is one of the factors, yeah.
I would not keep going back to the IT director's salary.
Well,
being-
okay,
because
that's the only
we-
one that comes to my mind,
Well,
because,
there were a number of people that walked in and said the salary was under and it should have been higher to start with. We might not have lost those people,
Right.
so let's not go back to that
that's
one.
fine, that's fine.
And I don't disagree with what's been said so far. I mean, the presentation and the report that was done before was not an acceptable report in a lot of people's opinion. And
Okay,
to
then,
use,
not too
to
many
go back.
people heard a presentation, so I don't know what they're basing that on.
Oh, I saw the presentation. It was made to the finance subcommittee. It was made to me and to Rick and to other people. We absolutely saw the report and saw the study. And it was lacking significantly,
Okay.
in our opinion. But it just, where we are, I just don't think that, throwing good money after bad is a good move at this point in time. And it's not a lot of money we're talking about. I understand that. We're beating you up for $3,000 when we have other fish to fry, but, it's principle.
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Move what?
Move the put to the vote.
You have to have a
Well,
motion.
Make a motion.
Make a motion to,
Huh?
I make a motion that we bring this matter to a vote.
No. I want favorable or unfavorable motion.
Call the question.
I make a motion.
He's calling the question, that's
Okay.
legit.
I make a motion for an unfavorable ruling.
Wait a
Unfavorable?
minute, you have a motion on the floor, you can't cut him off. He's calling the
I
question.
didn't hear a second.
Oh,
Gotta
my
ask.
God.
Okay.
Well, then do something another one.
That's it, just move. Move. Your motion.
I make a motion for an unfavorable ruling on this article.
Well, second.
Seconded. Any other discussion? Yes, sir.
Who sets the criteria for the study? Like, who set the criteria for the first study, and then why, the study came back, we weren't happy with it, and who set the criteria? Because you said the per capita income wasn't, it was more based on, you thought the study should be changed based on the salary versus.
One factor, it wasn't the main factor, which apparently other people feel that it is. We didn't feel that that was as much of a factor as what the actual salaries were, based on the towns that we had picked, based on the towns we had done in the first study 10 years ago. We added some other towns. We've now added further some other towns based on responses that we had at the selectmen's meeting.
Any other discussion? All in favor of an unfavorable recommendation? All opposed? Two opposed. Motion carried.
Three.
I'm sorry, who was opposed?
Uncle
Oh, Jack was, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Three
Chucky.
opposed. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7, 4, 3 opposed. So, with an unfavorable recommendation on town meeting floor, I mean, obviously you can bring it to the floor and have a discussion, and if town meeting approves it, that's fine. You also have an opportunity to pass over the article on town meeting floor and/or here, and then we would change the motion, we would eliminate the
I
unfavorable
would like
motion.
to discuss it with the board before, I mean.
Well, fine.
Next.
Article 3. Article 3 is earned leave. I'm not sure I understand it. It appears that you're adding a day of earned leave for people that take less than 3 sick days a year. Is that correct?
It's already pretty much the policy for a number of positions, but yes, what we are trying to do is, let me get the right one here. Back a couple of years ago, we've had a number of people that requested this type of arrangement, and it was approved by the town meeting. And then salaried people also requested the same type of arrangement, which was again approved by the town meeting. What we are trying to do now is, rather than have it come in as people request it, that we set a policy that will establish it for the classifications and not individual job titles. So the job classifications would now be eligible for this and not base it on who somebody is or who requests it.
Are you saying that we have a policy in place right now that if that's not
No, but-
consistent across the board for hourly and salaried employees? Article 2 people and Article 3? So in other words,
It's not consistent now, no.
if I was an hourly employee, I can come to the personnel board and say, look, I took less than 3 sick days this year, I would like an extra day.
No.
That's what I
goes to the
understood you
town-
said.
It goes to the town meeting, not on an individual, it gets approved by town meeting.
So now I'm really confused. We have it approved already that salaried and hourly people would get an extra sick day if they took, extra day, personal day, if they took less than 3 sick days a year. Correct or not correct? Phyllis?
The request was presented by the employees. The Personnel Board, under its bylaw, is required to act on it. So we had several employees that submitted a request to have that particular type of leave. And obviously, they asked for their specific positions. Few other people got wind of it. Next year came in and asked for their positions as well. This year, because there were so many positions that were changed because of the study. Their job descriptions were changed, their salaries were changed, their position titles were changed. The board would be running back and forth every year, adding this position, removing that position, changing that position. This just condenses it and it makes it more,
Consistent.
more livable. That it's generalized, that we're talking about position classifications as opposed to specific positions in a classification.
And what's the reason for the incentive?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What's the reason for the incentive? Why offer an extra day if you take less than 3 sick days? They're getting,
Because the employees requested it, and, wait a minute, this is no different, you know, if this were a union and you'd be negotiating with a union, you wouldn't even know about it. This is like collective bargaining. They came before the board, they asked for it, when the board looked at their employment history, they were certainly entitled to it. And you know, it's no different, it's no additional, benefit that that union employees, you know, don't get.
And this board over the years has tried to be consistent with the unions and the union benefits and tried to bring the Article 2 people up to a similar standard. The question I have is it that way with the union? If you take less than 3 sick days a year, you get an extra earned day. I mean, that's great. Zach?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
my office actually tracks time of attendance, and I think every single union has this exact scenario in there.
Okay.
And trust me when I say this is about 2 or 3 people per union taking advantage of this.
Great.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
I feel this should just be a refer to sponsor article. I don't think it's a
That's-
spending article. It's,
I don't know.
Money article.
It's a money article.
why, why
Because
is
we're
it a
paying an
money
extra day's pay, aren't we?
No,
Yeah, we are.
vacation day, you
It's an earned day, earned,
vacation day?
1 day earned
How
leave.
does that change a budget?
And also, if they're not going out sick, you're not paying for somebody
Right.
who need a replacement.
Sounds like a refer to sponsor bill to me.
Mr. Chairman.
Why?
Phil, if you
wanna
remember
set
last
policy
year,
for
or it was the
vacation
year
time?
before, I've forgotten which,
Voted on it.
you had come before us with one of the equity situations.
Right.
At that time, I'd asked the personnel board if they would take a look at all of them, so we don't have to do this every single year, piecemeal it
Right.
as we go along. Someone figures out this group has this, and if we're looking at equity, then let's do it at one time. If,
No, I recall you making that statement, and this actually would address this situation.
exactly, we're gonna keep doing this, and I think someone mentioned collective bargaining. Well, it's a non-union position, so you don't collectively bargain,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
However, the collectively bargained contracts don't necessarily bargain for the others. So, I mean, you can have one or the other, but if we're gonna have it, let's not do this every single year. Once somebody finds something in a union contract that's not in their workday.
I think that's what this addresses. It's
I
setting it up.
understand it, but I'd like to do it at one lump sum, rather than one this year, one next year, one in 2 years, and, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
If it's that important, then let's do it and do it right.
How do you do that?
Selectman Buckley?
Yeah, not trying to take a particular position, I understand Alda's position. The fact is, though, that it's a moving target, so that any union contract, this doesn't prevent anybody from coming forward next year or the year after. Right? It depends on, if the goal is to remain on par with union contracts, that's a moving target, and we collectively bargain individual units. So next year, you could have scenarios that, or the year after that.
Mr. Chairman?
Except there's nobody left to come forward. You're taking care of all of the full-time, salaried and hourly rated people. And the part-time people under Article 2 are not entitled to benefits.
For this benefit, and what Al,
They're not entitled to any benefit.
no, that's not what I meant. We've taken care of the salaried and hourly employees, full-time, Article 2 people with this benefit, with this article. What Aldo is saying, what other benefits are there that we haven't brought up to par or tried to bring up to par with the union contract? That's what he is asking. We want to do it, if we're going to be on par, or try to be on par, we would like to see a list of items and get everybody up to the same level. So we eliminate the annual,
The opening Pandora's box in a way in that.
we've opened Pandora's box
Wait,
before.
wait a minute, but it's, you can't be generic, some of the benefits are not generic. The
And-
police department, benefits that are important to them or to the fire department
And
don't
what-
make a difference to, let's say, the sewer department. So it's almost impossible to try to come up with another general benefit. I can't think of any other one that.
Okay. You had a question, Michael?
Well, I mean, we were comparing it to collective bargaining. Last time I looked, they don't come to this committee to approve their collective bargaining agreements. So why should we have to approve this? I think it's a refer to sponsor article, that's my point.
Make a motion.
I'll make a motion that this should be referred to sponsor.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? One opposed. Article 4. Article 4 to insert within the schedule area in the position of Administrative Assistant Senior Center Grade 3. Is in the hourly rate of positions approved under said Article 2 or take any other action. This is a new position?
This position was created, I believe, either last December or January.
So what does this do then?
This position was, after a position gets approved and goes through the normal process, the next town meeting, it needs to be added to the listing of Article 2 positions. We submitted that as, for inclusion in the warrant. It was submitted as part of the compensation schedule, study schedule, and when that article got passed over, the subsequent article was a reconstitution of the normal article that gives the 2% raise. For some reason, that position was not included in the revised bill, so we're trying to correct that by concluding it and adding it to the listing of the Article 2.
Okay, so this is an accepted position.
Yes,
Is the
it's
position filled?
been approved once, and then it's filled once, and then it's actually been refilled a couple weeks ago by the selectmen.
Okay, so it's good.
It's an ongoing position.
Okay.
It's basically trying to tie up what got missed at the last town
Got it.
meeting.
Move favorable, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. We're all set. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we have a couple of articles left. Guess, Bonnie, we'll do the 2 articles that you guys have. Article, we'll start with, Bobby.
7?
Article 21.
Which is,
Hazard mitigation plan. Hazard mitigation plan, I can read the article. I don't know where, Scott had to go someplace else, so
Yes, Scott
you're on the
was
hook.
not able to juggle his plans tonight.
Updating town hazards mitigation plan in accordance with FEMA guidelines and further see if town will vote, blah, blah. $50,000 bucks, not on the,
21.
Article 21, not on any capital plan.
No, not on any capital plan, because as far as I have been able to ascertain, the engineering department previous to me did not have a capital plan. I do have one now, and Zach has it. So the hazard mitigation plan update, I also didn't realize we had a hazard mitigation plan, because it was last done in 2010. They're good for 5 years. It was done by MAPC, which is our regional planning organization. It wasn't done by the town. They did have some assistance from the fire department and the police department, so it wasn't even done through the engineering department or the highway department. The reason that it came to my attention was because we need a current hazard mitigation plan to apply for FEMA grants for work on the Godfrey Brook. So that's where it becomes important that we update this plan. The other aspect that brought it to my attention is FEMA has been doing a lot of outreach this year because they've completely changed the requirements for the hazard mitigation plans. And so every community over the next few years will be updating their hazard mitigation plans because they've added a lot more detail and a lot more in terms of requirements for these plans. So the plan basically will include, just to let you know what we're gonna get for this amount of money. And I apologize, the 50,000 is actually 56,000. The plan will include a discussion of flood, fire, winter, geologic, wind, and other hazards. Regional cooperation opportunities, so the state and FEMA are all very positive about communities working together on these kind of hazard mitigation plans. Prioritization of the hazards and, you know, the likelihood of these hazards, and then hazard planning and response. The changes that FEMA made, so the plan that we have now expires in December. The changes that we'll have to include in the new plan that were not in the old plan, there are several working group meetings. There'll be an inventory of the town's assets to deal with emergencies. Then hazard identification and mitigation is a little more in-depth than it was before. There are 2 public meetings once the draft plan has been developed to present it to the community and get input. 2 rounds of draft plans, so there's a draft, and then there's a final draft, and then there's one final plan, and then, of course, it has to go to town meeting to get approved by town meeting. The plan review and approval process is a long process. FEMA drags it out. It typically, I've been told, it typically takes 1 to 2 years. So you have a consultant who's constantly interacting with FEMA and making changes, you know, in addition to these official drafts that have to be done. So that's what this estimate is for the review of, to get us through the review of the FEMA process and to get us a workable plan. The estimate also includes a small amount of money that was for writing a grant application to FEMA for us to produce this plan. If we get the grant application, the cost to the town will be reduced to about $20,000. So the money that, and if we don't get the grant application, the consultant is not charging us for their time to write the grant application. So it's a win-win for the town. If we get the grant, the cost goes down to the town. If we don't get the grant, we don't have to pay the consultant for the time they spent preparing that application.
All right, so let me, before everybody jumps in, let me ask a couple questions. What you said at the beginning, or what I heard at the beginning was, without this plan in place, because the one we have expired, we can't get any FEMA grants.
The one we have will expire in December, and that is correct. We are not eligible to apply for FEMA grants.
And you said that affects the Godfrey Brook project, not the one that we're working on now, because we already got that grant, right?
That's correct. Not the grant that we currently have in place, and not the grant that we are currently writing an application for right now to get in before our plan expires. But in the next, so if it takes, 2 years to get your plan approved, we want to get on this right away so that we can close that window as much as possible before that, for the time that we're not going to be eligible. We're not going to be eligible for at least a year probably until we get a new plan approved, which is the next thing that we'll talk about, which is why we're looking at Godfrey Brook. But
Okay, so if we, obviously we have to do this. We don't have a choice, right?
we do have a choice. We just could not do it, but we won't get any FEMA money going forward.
Okay, so, but we won't get any FEMA money for 1 to 2 years because we don't have a plan after December, correct?
That's correct, until we get a new one approved.
What's wrong with this process? There seems to be a 3-year lag time that we have to start doing a new plan if it's a 5-year plan. in order to continue to get FEMA grants all the time, right? Did I miss that? Is that right?
Bureaucracy, my friend.
That is correct.
Okay, so, all right, what do we have coming up in the next 2 years on the long-term capital plan that's gonna require FEMA grants? What about snow and ice? Or if something happens with that, if we have a disaster and we're entitled to FEMA money under that, how does that affect, without this plan, how do we get that money back? I mean, could be,
Scott could answer that question better than I can. I'm not sure if the disaster mitigation grants require a hazard mitigation plan specifically. So the money that he got for the snowstorm that we had this winter, I'm not sure that that was a requirement for that. But for the type of grants that we're going after in terms of the culvert repairs and that type of thing, we definitely need them. I don't know. It may be true that we need the hazard mitigation plan for those as well. But that's a question that I'll have to defer to Scott.
okay. So, back to the other question, what's on the docket for the next couple of years that would, we'd be eligible for FEMA grants? I mean, what about the Dilla Street Bridge and dam?
That, I don't believe we would be eligible for grants. We would be eligible to apply for a FEMA grant for the Louisa Lake Dam.
That's what I meant.
But that's a very competitive program. The bridge, I'm not sure we would be able to make the argument that that's not a maintenance issue. And then the brook, of course, would be the other big thing.
Yeah, we have a lot of brook projects in the
Right.
future.
Right.
Move favorable, Mr. Chairman, we need to get it
Second.
done.
Question.
Yeah.
The article refers strictly to hazard mitigation plan, and you mentioned the $56,000 for that. And yet the discussion went off into areas involving Godry Brook and other things. Is that hazard mitigation? Is that
Yes.
part of
Yes.
hazard
Yes,
mitigation?
it is.
Yes.
Okay.
So, for example, fixing the Louisa Lake Dam, which is categorized right now in fair condition, would be preventing a potential catastrophe from happening.
Thank you.
Flood the town from Louisa Lake.
Bonnie,
Yes.
how do we eliminate the gap
Right,
in
that's,
the expiration of the,
Yeah, we
of
gotta
the-
do it every-
of the
every
plan?
3 years.
Now we actually we have to start planning ahead for the next time we need to update it.
is it, we don't know, if the rules change every 3 or 4 years, and
I don't think they will. I don't think they've changed in a while. I think a lot of this is in response to Superstorm Sandy. They've made a lot of changes since then.
since then,
Yeah.
you had a question, sir?
No, I think we need to do it, if we're gonna get in the loop. So I don't know, we can talk about it, but it still has to get
No,
done.
I think it's important to understand what we're doing here.
I have no issue with doing it, because I don't think we have a choice.
Right.
But my biggest concern is, how do we get our arms around any potential issues like this?
Right.
You know, you're saying you just found out. My biggest worry is that there's another landmine waiting for us, and we're gonna lose the ability in the future. I don't know the answer. I guess I'm asking is, how do we go through and create a catalog? Because now we have a long-range capital plan. So what it does is it triggers us every 3 months to look at the items. And I guess I'm asking, how do we create something like that for permits and special things, Vonnie? And I'm ignorant of what they are. I really don't know what it is, but we ought to have a list somewhere that is, you know, perpetually being looked at. Because if it takes 2 years to approve it, that means in 3 years, we gotta start
Right.
again, or we'll be back in the same boat. I wanna make sure that 3 years from now, we're going through the list saying, hey, Vonnie, did this come up? But where do we start? How do we get that list so we
Well,
don't get
I
bit?
think I think that's a very good point, and I think the place for us to start is with the engineering department, providing you with a 5-year plan, or I can stretch it out even longer if we want to capture things like this that are every 5
Yes.
years. most permits and most approvals are either annual or, you know, every couple of years. So this one is a little unusual in the time frame. But, so I think that's the best place to start. I also keep a running list of things that I see coming up that I know need to be done. You know, for example, the stormwater permit every single May, things that are recurring like that.
Could you share with us your best guess, if I may, of 10 years? And then what will happen is, you know, Chris and I and Mike go through it every quarter. We'll be sending you reminders, not to challenge you, just to say, is this still legit?
That's
And that
fine.
gives you a chance to come back and say, no, I wanna move this or that.
So
And
you
that-
want 10 years broken into quarters?
No, we want it
Okay.
10 years.
Okay,
We go over it, we force ourselves minimum every quarter to go down the entire list to make sure we haven't omitted anything. Now, whether you give it to Zach and he gives it to us, it doesn't matter.
And
I just want a list that we're checking, if that makes sense.
makes perfect sense. And I know that Bonnie's working on her plan. Any other discussion?
Move to vote favorable.
It's already been, we're already at the motion, it's a vote.
Done.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right, Bonnie. Now let's talk about
thank you.
Westford Street culvert.
Okay. Let me start by saying again, this was not on your plan.
Sure.
But it is,
Oh, it is, but later on,
yeah, okay, well,
much later on.
I wasn't privy to that, but it is on the long-term plan that was put together for Godfrey Brook, which was in 2007. So it's been hanging out there. It is the next area that is prioritized to be taken care of. This, I'd like to stress that we have not awarded a contract. This is not a done deal. We're coming to town meeting to ask for the money to design the project. And to take a step back, we are applying for a FEMA grant for the construction. So we have a consultant right now. Scott took some money out of his highway budget to pay for a consultant, Environmental Partners, not the consultant who did the last one, a new consultant, to put together the application for the FEMA grant for us. And part of that is developing the costs for the construction. Before I tell you the cost for this article, because I know that you're going to say that's too much, let me explain how we arrived at the cost. So we took the bids from the Main Street Congress Terrace job, and I gave our consultant the 4 lowest bids. And they took every single bid item, gravel borrow, crushed stone, bit pavement. They took every single item. They came up with an average unit cost. And then they figured out what the unit cost per foot would be based on what the actual construction is costing now. Then they transferred that to this project. So for the length of the work in the culvert that they want to do, they're using real construction costs, real today construction costs. And then they base the design fee as 12% of that construction cost. So we're asking for this amount of money that they gave us. I just got it today. We kind of rushed through the process a little bit. So I didn't have time to negotiate with them or discuss it any further with them. Like I said, no contract has actually been awarded, so we could also put this out to competitive bid, but I'd like to ask for this amount of money now, just to make sure that we have enough, because I know this board does not like it when we come back and ask for money after the fact. So the estimate for the construction of the culvert is $300,000. On Main Street and Congress Terrace, we had 3 situations where we were not given right of entry by the private property owners. The town does not own any portion of the brook, and without a right of entry, we have to do a taking. So that means we have to pay for an appraisal, we have to go through the whole legal process, Jerry gets involved. So in this estimate is an additional $60,000 to pay for takings if they are needed. If they're not needed, that money won't be spent. But we wanted to make sure, because that money was not planned for on the Godfrey Brook project, and we ended up having to go to town meeting in the spring and ask for an extra $20,000 for the takings. So we don't want to get in that situation again. So that's basically how it breaks down. There are 4 properties. We figured 15,000 a property if we had to do takings. We hope that we won't have to do takings. And that's in line with what we had spent on the Main Street project for the takings that we had to do. So if we get this FEMA grant that is due in November, we would like to be able to start design as soon as possible, as soon as FEMA says we'll fund the construction. We want to start the design so that then we can get the project out and get it bid. So if we don't get the FEMA grant, then we can step back and reassess the whole situation. But we'd like to have the money in place in case we are able to move forward with design.
Okay, so the question I have is, before everybody asks the same question, how much are you asking for now? You just said 300,000 for construction costs.
No,
I
this
heard
is
you
not for
say.
construction costs, so I apologize. Let me clarify. The article is for design, permitting, appraisals, takings, and bidding.
Right, so it's gotta be less than 300K because that's what it's gonna cost to do the work.
No, we don't have a cost for construction yet.
You just didn't you just say that you took all the numbers from the other project and?
No, 300,000 is 12% of the construction cost. So that's what we're looking at for a construction cost.
Let me do the math.
So we're looking at about $3 million.
I'm not asking for that money right now.
Hold on, time out.
2.5.
Close to 3 million, yeah. Yeah, I told you.
Yep. Big number. All right, so the other part of the question is that once we do this and we get some numbers and we get the FEMA grant, which you didn't tell us how much the FEMA grant's worth,
I haven't seen the application yet. They're not done.
so you don't know, it could be 20 cents or it could be $3 million.
No, they'll put it in for whatever you just calculated, $2.5–3 million. They'll put in for 75% of that.
Oh, okay.
They'll ask for as much as they can.
Oh, okay, so 75% of 3 million.
Right, so it's the same grant that we did before, but
Right.
hopefully we'll have a better construction cost.
And we all know that if we get the FEMA grant, then there's a set amount of time we have to do the work.
That is
Appropriate-
correct.
Appropriate the money and do the work.
That's correct. It's a 2-year window.
2-year window. So if you apply for the grant now, how long does it take for them, when's the grant gonna be?
Well, yeah, that once the grant is actually made available to you, then the clock starts ticking. It's not when you apply for the grant.
No, I understand. So if you apply for the grant in November, when do you think FEMA will come back and say, yay, Milford, you guys doing a great job on this culvert, we'll give you the
Ideally,
$2 million?
ideally sometime in the winter, so then we could get started with design and bid the project
So you're
next
talking
year.
about possibly annual town meeting asking for $3 million?
Yes.
Or the
No.
difference between 3 million and 75%,
Correct.
25% of $3 million?
Right.
Can I just ask you a question? It's been absolutely 100% verified that if they do approve this process and it's in January, and what we just talked about, our mitigation has expired, can we still get the money? Since we applied during the
I've
time it was
asked
valid?
several people at
and now
FEMA
they're giving
that
it to us,
question,
and
and
we don't have one anymore, it's been expired.
right, I've asked several people at FEMA that question, and they have not given me a straight answer yet. I'm working on that. And again, I was not ready to present this to you at all tonight. I was asked to come in and do this, but there are still some unanswered questions. And so if we are not eligible for the grant because we have to have active hazard mitigation plan at the time of award of the grant, then we will stop work on the application for the grant.
Because that would be a big kick in the
that cha-
pants if all of a sudden they're
right.
like, oh, by the way, here's $2.5 million. Oh, no, I'm sorry, you can't have it.
Right.
That would
right.
hurt.
Yeah, no, we would stop everything that we're doing right now but that's something that we're still I've been talking with people from FEMA back and forth for the last week, trying to get an answer to that question.
It seems like an easy question.
It should be.
Depends on the time of day.
Yeah.
So you're asking for three.
Maybe it depends on how many people apply for the
Just ask the
grant.
right person.
You're asking
Get
for
it in writing.
360, so what you're
I'm
saying?
asking for 360.
And back to the 15,000 per property, that's for the taking or for appraising? the
Appraising and taking.
property? And taking.
It's 300.
360,000.
No, that includes.
Yes.
The 60's not
It's
included.
360 total is what I'm asking
Four
for.
properties. Mike?
Connie,
I'm
the 12% of construction from Main Street and the Congress, wasn't Main Street like gonna be way more money than what the West Bruce construction's gonna be? I mean, 12% based on the actual cost of the Main Street construction. I mean, Main Street, we blocked the lane, we moved the water, we moved the sewer. Main Street was a major construction of the culvert. Wouldn't that estimate have been much higher than what West Bruce would be? So we're basing the 12% based on the actual construction cost of Main Street, right? Did I understand that right?
That's correct.
So,
No, but they applied the individual items to the proposed engineering
oh, okay, I apologize. Sorry.
on the culvert, which may not be 100% of what the
Understand.
Main Street
Yep.
is, that factor.
Got, missed that, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
is this something we was planning on? It sounded like you weren't expecting this
No, we
this
weren't.
cycle. So I'm sorry, Bonnie, did I miss the sense of urgency that we need to do this now?
The sense of urgency is that our hazard mitigation plan is expiring in December, and we can't apply for FEMA grants for 2
And
years.
then to the point that we have to have one in place in order to get the
We
grants.
don't know that yet.
Well, we don't know that yet, but we did need to, in order to get this whole process going, we need to have an estimate for the construction and the engineering costs. And so that's part of what we've been working on. And so this article is for design of the project if we get the FEMA grant.
So, but what makes this, why we have to do it now? Did we have a plan for the whole
Well,
structure?
just to clarify, this is the next section in the list of priority locations.
It's like 20-something million dollars to fix the whole brook.
I know, over the next 1,000 years,
Yeah.
right? So,
Right.
yeah, I mean,
I'm not gonna
There's
be here that
There's
long.
an opportunity here to get 75% of $3 million if we spend 56,000 to get the plan in place and get the grant application in before the end of this
So this-
fiscal year,
but-
end of the calendar year.
you're making it sound like this grant money is never gonna be available again.
I don't know that
Well,
answer.
not, or yes, or what? or-
Right, I don't know the answer to that either.
I just thought we had a plan that we were gonna submit this every year or so, and so this seemed to be out of cycle.
Jack hasn't said very
If
much
it's-
to me.
Yes, Jack.
If it's $3 million, how much are we gonna get in grant money?
75%.
75%.
That'd be 220,
2 million too,
2 million too, right?
about.
So it's only gonna cost us at
750.
$3 million.
Million.
25% of that.
I'm not used to these.
800,000.
You're a lawyer, what are you talking about?
Everything's a third.
That's because he's a Boston lawyer, so you should come to the Milford lawyers, they get less, right?
I don't think so.
Sir?
One quick question. If you get this answer from FEMA before town meeting and they find out that they will not accept it or issue this money, are you gonna pass over this article?
Yes. Yep.
Yes, Albert.
I was going the same place Jack did. What we're talking about here is committing somewhere around 980 to 1.2 million dollars within 2 years.
Right.
Because if we go forward with 360,
No, 3 million.
no, but if we go forward with 360 right now,
Right.
and we get the grant,
Spend.
our part of the grant is gonna be between 625 and 750.
Right.
So this is not a $300,000 commitment.
No,
We have to,
right.
this is 980 to 1.2 million dollars
Right.
that we would have to cover in the next year or two. I'm a little nervous. I'm right where Mike is saying, are we okay to come up with another $1 million in the next year or so?
Welcome to the nervous group. I have the numbers which you're gonna talk about eventually, and
Yeah, we're whittling down those nice numbers real fast.
yes, we are.
So, I mean, I don't know, it just feels like,
Well, I mean, the question remains, Bonnie, I mean, next year, is this grant available from FEMA?
No, it won't be because we won't have an approved hazard mitigation plan.
Okay, so 2 years
So
from now.
we know that until
Let's
we
assume,
get our
let's
new one
assume
approved.
we get a new plan in place and
If
approved.
they still have the same program, yes, yeah.
If they still have
If
the same
everything
program.
remains the same as far as the grant is concerned.
Can we bond this?
Yeah, yeah,
Huh?
yeah. That's not a problem.
You
We
got all
have,
years,
we'll
so-
have capacity, we may end up paying cash, but the point is, the question here is, can we wait 2 years?
yes.
And not do anything right now and save that 360,000 for other things and wait 2 years till we get the hazard plan in place and apply for a FEMA grant then. And continue to put money away for Godfrey Brook and wait till there's a $4 million bond bill that was approved by the state, of which we've gotten 250,000, so, I mean, there may be money there as well, so, over the next couple of years.
Is time of the essence on this?
That's another question for Scott, honestly. I mean, is
It's
it
very
gonna
important
collapse?
question.
Is the culvert gonna collapse tomorrow? I don't think so, but,
Well, it'll collapse in 2 years, before a 2-year period is over.
that's a question that you need to ask Scott, because it's his infrastructure. But it really is the town's decision if they want to move forward with this or not. The way I see it, if we don't get the FEMA grant, then we won't move forward with the design, and we obviously won't move forward with construction. So we haven't lost anything. If we do get the FEMA grant, we can decide at that point if we want to move forward with the design and construction, or we can decide to pass on the grant. The options are still open to the town. It's just if we get the grant and we do want to move forward and we want to get working right away, then I'd like to have the money to be able to do that.
All right, so if, it's gonna cost us nothing to decide to submit this grant, is what you said, correct?
Yeah, it's already been paid for by the highway department.
Right, consultant's already taken care of to do that, so we can submit the grant, we don't need to give you, at this point in time, 360K.
No, but if we get a letter from FEMA in January that says they're gonna give us $2.2 million,
Oh yeah, we'll work it out then, for sure.
but then we won't have money until May, so we won't be able to start the design until the summer, so we won't be able to do construction till the following year.
We'll have a special town.
Is that bad?
I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
it's not a bad.
I mean, if we get $2.5 million from FEMA to do this, we'll find the 700,000 in the spring.
And we'll be able to get an answer from Scott on how bad the brook actually is.
Right. Not a problem.
I just feel like this is going too fast.
Yeah,
It's too
I
much
think,
money.
I think our recommendation is you pass this article over at this point in time.
I think we should get a condition report on the,
It's falling apart. The brook
It's
is-
falling
The
apart.
brook is
The-
falling
it-
apart. In total, I mean, that's why we're fixing it piece by piece as we can.
and that may not be good enough.
You're right. But I don't think it's gonna matter for 6 months.
Okay, right.
Louisa Lake Dam falls apart, we're all set, we're just gonna flood the town, so it's not gonna be an issue. That would be our recommendation, I feel, is to pass the article over and come back in the spring, write the FEMA grant. If we get the grant, we'll absolutely find $700,000 or $800,000 in the spring. Absolutely. We have to, we can pull it out of stabilization, I mean, there'll be money available.
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay with the committee? Thank you, Bonnie. And I would get to Scott if you could and get an answer how bad the culvert really is. I don't think it's as bad as we think it is, but if we can get the money to fix it, let's fix it.
It is pretty bad. I mean, in 2007, they said it was a high priority, that it needed to be fixed.
Here we are, 8
And that,
years-
it's almost
8
10 years
later,
ago.
so it couldn't be that bad. All right. I think we are almost done. We have like 2 articles left. Let me just check, please.
27,
Article 7 is the planning board article, signs. Can I get a motion for a first sponsor?
Move. Second.
All in favor? Awesome. I don't want to even get into signs. Selectmen got into signs the other night for about an hour and a half, I think. It was very interesting.
Article 7?
Article 10, we're going to wait on until, we'll have this discussion now, so everybody knows. We had a subcommittee meeting with the school department earlier. The article that the school department put on because of the IT situation, we had originally, for this budget cycle, this budget season, moved all of the IT money into Department 155, which is under town side control, quote unquote. The school department, since the town has decided to separate at this point in time the IT from the school versus the town side, the school department felt that they should have some of that money back. There's no argument that they should have some of that money back. The question is, put it back in their budget, their 300 budget, or leave it in 155 and break it up into 155A and 155B is what the finance director is recommending. 155B would be under the control of the school department. They could spend the money out of that budget. Their concern, the article, the way it's presented, moves it into that other account, and we have to find out, and Jerry's not here tonight, if we can amend the article on town meeting floor to the correct account number. If not, we may have to go to the selectmen on Monday and present an article from the FinCom to do it that way, and they will pass over this article. We have time because selectmen haven't approved the warrant, and they won't until Monday night, so it's not been printed. So that's where we are, and the objective here is to keep all the IT money in the same place as we move forward, because eventually, we all hope and pray that we're going to have one IT department for the whole town, down the road. Could be 2 years, could be 3 years. That's why we'd like to do this. So we'll pass on this article right now, and we'll bring it up again at our October meeting on the 14th, I believe it is, and we can put a sheet of paper on everybody's chair with our recommendation. So it's a TBD. All right. We're on 17. We have 17, 19, 28, 27, 28 to go. All right, so 17 is to rescind $1 million. Is that right, Zach? Yes. $1 million for the authorized borrowing for the youth center. We originally planned to borrow $5 million, and we paid a lot of it in cash. There was about $1 million left, and we feel that with the amount of free cash that we have left, we can pay that off in the spring. Zach?
There was actually $4 million that we
$4
had
million.
authorized.
Right.
And at the October meeting last year, we rescinded $3 million. This is the remaining $1 million.
Right. Any discussion? Have a motion?
Move.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, that leaves us Article 19. Back to Brian.
More firm information on some of these items that we,
That's a thick packet, Brian. That's a thick packet.
go through it pretty quick.
Go ahead.
Here's another one, Mark, because I don't think we got the backup this
All
afternoon.
right, thanks, Brian. That's all right. Not hurt. Basically what we discussed last night. Brian has the numbers for most of the things that we discussed last night.
Yeah, so, these are the items that, we're talking about, and of course Vonnie's here, so she'll be able to, I think, probably give some more detailed information than I was able to last night. But as you're looking at this spreadsheet, the first two items that we're talking about is the increase on the architectural services for the extended time on the contract, primarily 4 months. So you have the architect, which translates to about $12,000 a month, includes the work of reviewing the shop drawings, change orders, the weekly site visits, monthly meetings, daily management, and of course, there are so many specialty consultants that the architect is kind of like the gateway to deal with. And the second prong of that is what you would consider clerk of the works. He's there roughly 20 hours a week, documents the work that's done, oversees the project for the town's benefit. It translates into about $5,400 per month, and that cost has been pretty constant throughout. Getting into some additional work while we're on the site, again, beyond the scope of the original project, but certainly making good sense to do while the place is in transition, while it's all torn up, is extended paving. And we have a quote right now of $67,000. We haven't had a chance to kind of beat that down a little bit, which is what usually happens with these things, so I would anticipate that number to be a little bit less. But again, it's to pave the full area and not just the areas that are disturbed. The finishing of 4 additional rooms on the second floor, those next 2 items relate to that. It's about $24,000. So again, this was not something that we had planned on doing, but while it's torn up, it makes a lot of sense to do. You're not gonna be able to refinish 4 rooms at that cheap a price at any time in the future. And, the problem, they can be left unfinished. I don't wanna misrepresent that. However, we have a different dynamic here than at a new construction senior center. And Mark, you saw this, and some of the guys that are gonna come by tomorrow, you'll see it. The existing walls that aren't finished are this like brushed concrete, and it's a very rough surface, and it's a dangerous surface. So if kids or anyone gets in there, rubs up against it, they're gonna get cut. And we can, do what we can do to try to keep those rooms off, but it's not like it's brand-new, unfinished area. So I think it makes real good sense, cost-wise and logistically, to just finish off the first 2 floors. We've reoriented the budget so that finish work on the first floor and as much as we could do on the second floor is done. The basement we're keeping primarily rough, which I think makes a lot of sense. Now, the second page brings us to the popular kitchen hood, which generated a lot of interest. I don't think any of us would want this hood in our home, but I guess it depends on your cooking skills, because as you look at it, I guess if the range gets too hot, this thing shuts everything down. So there's the full specs on this hood. It's not like something you would have in your house. It's a specialty item, and that was spec'd for us in terms of fire code and also what the architects are recommending. Again, another step that's taking us beyond the scope of the original project is the actual IT wiring throughout the conduit system. Bonnie provided a bid on that from World Band, which describes exactly what's going to be done. Again, it can be done later, but it makes a lot of sense, I think, while the walls are opened up. If there is a problem, if there is a snag, it's easier, I guess, to deal with that when there's no walls. So it would make sense to do it at this particular point. And then lastly, the generator. Again, this is the cost for a portable generator. If you look at the last page, there's a summary that we have from the architect in terms of what's spec'd right now, which I described last night. A portable generator that will keep the heat running, the sump pumps running, can be plugged outside. If we were going to do something that's more permanent, there, and I'll read it right from here, it says, there are a lot of things that need to be modified to make that new configuration work, and the suggested carrying allowance of at least $150,000 to cover the scope. Based on current code requirements, a new generator of that size would require an external exhaust to be run outside the building all the way to above the roof, so it'd be a visible item from some points. So that's kind of where the generator situation is. Given the scope of the project, where we're at now, the fact that the place is right next door to the fire station, I think it makes the most sense to equip it with a portable generator. So this is basically, you know, the summary of what we're looking forward to try to do to not only complete the scope of the work, given the extent of change orders, but also carry it a couple of steps further, and I think get the work done cheaper than it's gonna be done in the future.
I guess I can ask some questions. The most important thing that we've discussed over the last night or more is this generator. What I read here is not what we had discussed. What he is saying here, I believe, is that current scope was designed with a transfer switch station to be located outside the building for a 60-kilowatt portable generator to be brought and provide coverage for the building's heating system only. Now the town wanted a new generator to cover the entire building, to use as a shelter or something like that, which is not what we said. Then current design and some panels and devices we own under contract will need to be modified. Griffin did not install those, and there may be a chance to ask them not to install them if town felt this direction wants to go. You mentioned there's a lot of things that will need to be modified with new configuration work, suggesting carrying an allowance of at least $150K to cover the potential scope. Lastly, based on current code requirements, new generator this size will require an external exhaust, blah, blah, blah. All we asked was that the sump pumps be put on a transfer system.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And 60 kilowatt should be more than enough to cover the 3 sump pumps, and probably run half my house. But, and it should be we believe it should be a permanently mounted outside the building generator with oil-fired balusters to prevent people from running into it, et cetera, because nobody's calling me at 3 in the morning to go down and turn them on, so.
The 60 kilowatts will run the sump pumps and the heating system. And that's really what we need a generator for, is to protect all the investment we've made in this building from the pipes freezing and from it flooding in the basement. One of the reasons that we went towards the portable generator was because in the contract, we already own that plug-in station. So it's just the price of the generator, and we were trying to be cost-conscious and not come to this board with a large number. The 150 is based on a larger generator, but it's also based on the fact that to have an automatic transfer switch and a soft start, you need a motor control center. You need a concrete pad for a permanently mounted generator and bollards, like you just mentioned. You need a soundproof enclosure, because this is in a residential area. You need to run that exhaust duct all the way up our brand-new, beautiful building, so we'll have this ugly pipe on the outside of the building, not to mention an ugly generator on the outside of the building. So it's a lot more complicated. I talked to Marcelo again this afternoon, and there are things there's electrical equipment in our contract that has already been purchased by the electrical contractor that we would have to switch out for something else, so we would get a restocking charge. It's not a simple thing to go from one to the other. The price of $20,000 was, from our architect, it was based on a very quick internet search. So and he recommends that the town, if we do go with a portable generator, that we buy it ourselves. We don't have to add it to the contract. We can just buy it ourselves, so we don't pay any markup. So it could possibly be less than that. From our perspective, I mean, So much work has gone into this building, and I know everybody thinks that $5 million was a lot of money, but we have really pinched every single penny, every step of the way on this. And we're trying to do it now, too. We think that $20,000 or less for a generator is reasonable. And we do have emergency services on call 24/7. If we're gonna have a major power outage, it's going to be a big snowstorm or a hurricane, and everybody will be on deck anyways. So we're not concerned about having somebody call Carlos at 3 a.m. to go plug in the generator. And that's all, it literally is just going in, pulling it out and plugging it in. So, we just think that that is really the best way for the town to go for this facility.
Michael?
Everyone here is agreeing about the need to have it hooked up to sump pumps or have electrical circuitry to the sump pumps. But the memo here specifically says in capital letters, building's heating system only. Makes no reference to electrical provisions to the sump pump area.
This is an old email that we provided just to kind of give you some perspective of the process we've gone through to get to this point. We did double check with our architect, and they said there's no problem running the sump pumps with the 60 kW and the boiler.
So the money amount of estimate of 20,000 does include electricals to the sump pump.
That is correct.
Janet?
Yes.
So this outside plug for the generator has to have so we're gonna have a portable generator, we're gonna have to have a manual transfer switch. I see that.
That's
that Carl's
correct.
gonna have to switch.
It'll be a manual transfer switch, and it's like a docking station, basically.
And then, do we, under the contract, and this ties to the paving too, do we have to have RAC do the paving? I mean, I know we have different contracts in Milford doing patches on the road. Can we get pricing from them, or do we have to, are we bound to the contract to have them? Or can we get a price from an outside paving or it's not part of the contract?
We don't need to add that to this contract, although I will say the estimate we got came from Braza, who is the contractor that does all the paving for the town. They have a contract with the town. So, I personally think the 67,000 is a little high. This came across my desk this afternoon. Again, I wasn't prepared to come in here tonight, so I haven't had a chance to really negotiate that price with them. The town could do the paving after the fact. All of these items, except for the 4-month extension, were things that we wanted to include, but we didn't because we were trying to keep the cost down. And so in the contract, we own trench paving. That's about an $11,000 credit if we take it out. And then if we did the paving separately without having RAC do it. So that's certainly an option, just like the generator.
I guess my question would be though, if we fund it here, do we still pay like, say, a Braza, you mentioned, can we pay Braza out of the same fund, or is it because we're funding, how's it work? Like we're funding the.
It doesn't matter the funding
Doesn't matter.
source, it's the contract.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have a contract with RAC to do full-depth reconstruction of the parking
We
area.
could pay a private,
So we could do it, yeah, we could definitely do it separately.
I'm sorry, I'm just back on this generator. I get up this morning and I lost power in my house last night and I didn't even know it. I don't know how long we lost power for, but we did. And so this happens regularly in town. Somebody hits a pole or whatever and we lose power. I don't know how long it takes, and I don't think we ought to test it, to flood the basement. But
Trench system,
It's not gonna happen instantaneously with the new system that we have in there.
I guess this, we need to be assured that this will work for whatever. I mean, obviously you can call the fire department, have them go plug it in, but, because they're on 24/7. That is an option, I think, and if you make nice to them, maybe they'll help you out there, but.
The fire department has been excellent neighbors in terms of this project. It's been difficult for them to get their vehicles in and park, and they've just been wonderful throughout this, very understanding, just great great neighbors on this project.
So, I mean, it is an advantage to have them next door, but, I'm okay if you're okay. I just,
Mr. Chairman,
sir.
I'm not comfortable with it because we could ask the fire department, but if it's a blizzard, number one, Carl's is not gonna get there to plug it in. We could ask the fire department, but they're gonna be probably doing calls. Someone has to fuel this, cause this is a gasoline generator we're talking about.
No, it's gonna be, on natural gas. It's
a
gonna be hooked up.
portable- It's a portable. How we- how is it
Oh, you're
gonna-
right. No, so, excuse me. Yep, you're right.
That's the way I wanna go, is a
It'll be
natural gas,
gasoline, yeah.
natural gas.
Yeah,
with
permanent
trailer, But this is a
installation, like we
portable,
have at the
it's a
high school.
portable gasoline,
High
needs to
school
be
toilet.
wheeled, so that's an ongoing, you know, like I said, if it is a blizzard, there's gonna be a problem getting there.
Now, let's ask this question. What if, a year from now, we decide that this portable generator is not the right thing to do? For whatever reason, it didn't work out, people can't get to it under blizzard whatever. Is the infrastructure in place to put in a permanent generator down the road? The transfer switch is still manual, right? That would have to be converted to automatic.
Well, no, you're talking a whole different type of equipment, so there would have to be some electrical upgrades, and changes to that whole system. So you could do it, it definitely is possible, but what's being installed under the contract is not the right system for the type of generator that you're talking about.
Does the fire department have a generator?
Say again?
Does the fire station have a generator?
We do.
Oh, yeah.
Why can't we run a line to the fire station?
Good point.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Sir.
So the generator, Bonnie, if we decided to go with a gas-fired generator, pad-mounted automatic transfer switch, we should get a credit from Griffin or whoever it is for the manual transfer switch and the outdoor plug, right?
We should get a credit, but again, like I said, if they've already ordered the equipment, there may be a restocking fee. The credit's never what you think it should be.
It's gonna be about 60% of what you're gonna pay.
Right.
All right.
How could they order it if it's on their, Vonnie,
No, it's on, we wrote the contract to have a docking station for a generator, but we didn't include a generator to save money. So it's in the contract for them to provide that
docking station?
place to plug in a generator, yes.
Sir.
I am on the same page as Jeff. I have a very hard time of you guys doing such a great job with this building, and then we're saying, oh, let's get this small little generator. And then you say to me, what if it doesn't work out? Well, if it didn't work out one time, we have a flooded basement and everything in the end is gonna be ruined. So I'm really not interested in taking the chance of saying that, oh, wow, it's screwed up, let's buy a new one. Well, now we had a flooded basement, we had all the problems because we decided we didn't wanna do a permanent solution. This building's been done, I think it needs a permanent solution for these pumps. You guys did all this work, and now we're gonna roll the dice because, you know, we're making this one final decision on a generator, and we're gonna do this, and Jeff brings up valid points that who's gonna change the gas, who's gonna get down there and do it, who's gonna plug it in? If it doesn't happen just one time, we have a serious problem.
There's gonna be a maintenance person assigned to this building, which is something new. So that'll be primarily that person's responsibility to handle. As you know, the fire department is right next door. We can make arrangements with them, you know, to get that put together in case of a dire emergency. And the other thing, like Vonnie said, you know, the infrastructure that's been put in to capture the water is substantial. We have 3 trenches. I mean, that water level's gotta get kinda high to really start flooding things.
When I went through the building,
Yeah.
excuse me, Brian, when I went through the building with the engineer, he said the sump pumps run continuously.
Pretty much so, although when I was there last week, they weren't.
Well, no, they didn't run all summer continuously.
They were running when we were there.
One of the pumps, there is a small underground river that goes under the far end of the building, which is why it was always wet in there. And one of the pumps does run daily, not continuously, but daily, to take care of that water that gets in. Water levels have been down over the summer, so they haven't really been running that much, but, yeah, there's But the trenches themselves have a fair amount of holding capacity as well, so it's not gonna flood all of a sudden. But, yes, if there's a power outage, we're gonna wanna have the sump pumps running somehow.
Do you have an idea of how long the power can be out before we have a flood?
My suggestion, flood the basement, see how long it takes.
Oh, you don't have to flood the basement, just see what the.
No, just turn off the sump
Turn off the sump
pumps.
pumps.
Well, I mean,
I
one
mean,
of the things.
if the pumps aren't running every day, it sounds like even,
They're not running every day during the summer, but in the spring and the fall, when
But
the
they're
water
running right
level's
now.
higher.
Last night's
They could
They
be.
ran yesterday, yes.
But one of the things is, with the trench system that we have, the architect said any water that does accumulate will leave fairly quickly and easily. It's all been targeted to project that water outwards.
If the sump pumps are running.
Or even if you flood and then you get the sump pumps
Well,
back
the
on.
trenches drain to the pit where the sump pump is too, so there's some holding capacity there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman.
It is what it is, and
Yes, Mike. I mean, Jeff.
I know we have a lot of heartburn over the dollar amount for this, and I don't know how we put a line item in for the 150 in there for the generator, because I personally feel that's the right way to go. The 20 for the portable is not the way. I know it pushes the whole appropriation up, and I don't know how we do that, but that's,
It's easy to do, you just don't do
Just
some of
change
the
the
other
number.
stuff.
Mr. Chairman?
I'll wait till you're done, because I have questions not on the
It's
generator.
not really the 150 KW generator or whatever
No,
that size.
50,000.
I know, I don't know what the size of that generator is going to be. In my mind, it's the automatic transfer switch. That's the issue. The 60 KW generator is going to be a perfectly good generator for what you're talking about. We have a fire department there, we have a custodian here, we have someone there, but we have a building, it's over there. And fire department may be out doing fire department stuff, so there's not gonna be anybody there for that. If we're going to use the generator, we need to have some sort of sleep insurance that when the power, well, your power went out, my power went out today too. And it went out down the other end of town, and somebody takes a pole down, who knows? But if we're gonna protect our investment, we're talking about sleep insurance for everybody. That thing gets the automatic switch, 60 KW is fine, you're gonna run more than enough. Those pumps aren't gonna drain that, and the heating system will work. That's really what we need to think about, making this thing an automatic system, because if we don't make it an automatic system, just leave that thing there, have somebody to go down and run a generator, plug it in and do it, but it's not gonna make it, it's not gonna do for us what we want it to do, and I think, you might have said it, Mark, one casualty,
Yeah, the other,
there's $500,000-600,000 worth of damage.
the other alternative, which I just thought about, I don't know, it's probably way too late to do this now, but I have a sump pump in my house, and it's battery backed up. There's a big battery on that instead of a generator. So if the power goes out, it'll run that sump pump for 6, 7, 8 hours on the battery.
Yeah, but yours is probably
Well-
It's a
single
smaller
phase.
pump, there's no
No,
question,
we have a backup pump, we have a redundant
No,
pump system.
you
No,
have,
it's a
that's
battery
gonna
that
be
runs the pump.
two-phase, three-phase pumps. Those pumps aren't single phase.
No, you don't
No,
understand, it's a,
no. The other issue, though, that's a good suggestion, but the other issue is the sprinkler system. We don't want that to freeze if it's wintertime and it's a blizzard, so.
You need a decent system, because you're running two-phase and three-phase power, I would absolutely.
I think we should go back and take a look at this some more, my opinion. I mean, if we have to eliminate the other stuff on here, except for the 40, the architect and take the 60K or 70K, eliminate the other stuff, and just do the generator.
I'd like to request that we keep in the telecommunication. It's a small item. Lonnie came out today and walked the whole building. He had some really good ideas. But the best way for him to get his cabling in and everything is while the walls are all open right now.
I don't have a problem with
That's, I'm kind of curious where the architect says you don't plan on telephones or computers
No.
on his furnishing?
No, that's, so, no, the restoration of the building did not include the actual telephone or the actual computer.
Honey,
or the
$5
actual
million
router.
and you didn't expect to have a telephone in the place?
No, we expect to have a telephone in the place, but we're not buying new telephones.
But without wires, you can't use a telephone. I'm just curious, it's only 17 grand, but it's 17, well, 8 for the telephone. And the same question, like, we didn't expect to have a kitchen?
No, we cut the kitchen,
Yeah.
again, to save costs. The kitchen was cut. That was something that was on the wish list. The telecommunications data, we discussed it with the architect, and they said, well, normally you would have World Band or whoever your consultant is come in, and they'll run what they're gonna run for you. So we left that off, the renovation part of the project as well. In the contract, though, the electricians are running the conduit and the pull strings, so that work could have been done after the fact. However, there should be some kind of a credit to us if we do that work now, because they won't have to run all that conduit and the pull strings.
Yeah,
Why wouldn't they have to run the conduit?
Well, because the conduit just makes it easier to install it in the future without having to open up the
With
walls.
all due respect, I would be worried if you hardwire in, because then when you have a bad wire, the conduit, I always thought, gives you the ability to easily pull a new wire if there's a problem. My biggest concern, if you start knocking off the conduit, is they're gonna run those cables, and when you try and pull one, it's gonna snag.
Well, I'm not saying all of them, but Lonnie said today that there were, because we have the steel framing in the walls that we are finishing, he said that he didn't think the conduit needed to be run, that he could just run the wires.
I don't even know why we need Cat 6, I mean,
Why not?
put a
The difference
wireless.
between 5
wireless-
and,
Put a wireless router in. Everything runs wireless.
you know, Mark, for
I'm
8
just-
grand on 5 million.
I'm not arguing that whether we should or
I'm
shouldn't.
sort of
just
sitting
making
there
a
saying,
suggestion, saying, why
I
do we need
wouldn't
it?
pull the
Same thing
conduit,
with the
because if
telephone.
something, I ran conduit in my house, and when I had a bad wire, it made life a lot easier to replace a wire. Removing the conduit scares me. I mean, it seems weird.
Okay, well, that was an aside. Either way,
Here, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Holy
Yes,
moly, Batman, this is
Yeah.
$400,000.
I can't compliment you two enough with the work that you did with that building and all the change orders and everything else that happened. But I'm tapped out on this right now. I've gotten more calls as a FinCom member and a town meeting member about this $5 million armory than on anything else, about they can't believe what a big project this is. And I tell them what a great work you guys have done and the transformation that you guys have done to that building. But at $5 million, I'm done. I can't, obviously the architect cost absolutely, because you need it, and the generator, absolutely, because you need it. But the finishing of more rooms and pavement,
Gotta pave it.
Well, the only thing is, Chris, and first of all,
No.
those people are calling you, tell them to call me.
Yep.
Because I'll be glad to take them through.
Yep.
And
That's why I said it's
and-
beautiful.
But I mean, we need to take a step back a little bit, about a year or so, because when this project was being put forth, we were worrying about, roofs and ceilings and walls that were basically caving in. And we subsequently found stones that were deteriorated and falling off. So, we had a major construction problem. So now, to try to fine tune it with some of these other items, it looks easy, but it hasn't been easy to get to this point. So
I can't compliment you enough
Well,
with the
no,
work
I'm
you
not
did. I mean,
looking for
it really,
compliments, but I
you
just-
deserve them.
I just
But-
want a realization of what was done, because, like you say, well, you don't have a kitchen in there. No, we did not, because the major thrust of this thing was get the structure back, get the thing up to code. So that's what we've been focusing on. So for now, like, for example, the finishing of the 4 rooms, that's $24,000. We finished one room we finished 2 rooms at the senior center. One was for $19,000 a few years ago, and we just did the other room for $70,000. So if the town spends $24,000 now, that's a savings. There's no question that that's a savings. There's no question about it. So I,
Unless they fundraise and they pay for it.
Except it won't cost $24,000.
You'll have to have a big
It's
fundraiser.
economies of scale because they have the drywall guys there and the painters there and the acoustical ceiling guys there that, you know.
that's the thing. If you're in there and it's torn up, now's the time to knock it down and just get it done. That's gonna be the cheapest way to do it.
I agree, it's the cheapest way to do it, but like I said, I just,
Like 400 grand.
Well, I mean, it's 400 grand
If you
with,
have
with the,
$150,000
with the thing,
Fancy
for the,
generator.
for the generator, which involves a lot of exterior
to
infrastructure.
me, that's protecting a $5 million investment. So that I don't have an issue with.
Well,
Because you guys have done such hard work, we need to protect it.
But I mean, if there was a flood, it's in the basement.
I understand.
And there's really nothing in the basement except concrete.
But isn't that where you're going to?
Yeah,
rent
you're
storage
gonna
for
expand,
storage
and yeah.
Isn't that where the storage is gonna go? and you're
There'll be
gonna
some
rent-
storage there,
rent
but
storage
Because you
space?
told me you had big plans for the basement.
I don't have big plans for the basement. It's major, it's not being finished.
Isn't the weight room down there and everything else?
Yeah,
and-
there'll be the weight room down there, sure.
And
But I mean,
storage of everything?
But I mean, it's not gonna ruin the whole building. It's not gonna,
I
yeah.
didn't mean it like that,
Yeah,
of course
yeah.
not, but
Yeah.
there's gonna be some damage. If the weight room's down there, if we have storage of things,
There could potentially be some damage, but.
which I wanna protect you guys from,
Yeah,
you
well,
know?
that's fine. You know, we think, and we've been told from the folks that have, you know, designed this and dealt with it, that this type of generator system that's been spec'd would do that with the personnel that we have. And the leeway that you have in terms of water building up and how fast it would happen and that kind of stuff. It's not gonna be instantaneous. It's, you know, it's not gonna get hit with a tidal wave, you know what I'm saying?
No, I know you're,
So there's some time, and I don't know to the degree that we've used generators in all the other buildings in town. You know, I mean, so we're just assuming that all this damage is gonna happen to the youth center. I mean, you know, have we had that to the, you know, to the senior center? We had that to Memorial Hall, we had that to this building, you know?
I think the water is the issue there. I mean, if there was no
Water is an
underground
issue,
river
sure.
there, then I would care less if you had a generator, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. It's,
Yeah.
that's really the core of the issue,
Yeah.
is the river, you know?
You spent significant amount of funds to put in that whole system.
Right.
To minimize or mitigate the water problem.
Absolutely.
And he's right, we gotta protect that, I think. I
And-
mean,
and
we
if-
didn't do that for nothing, it was just not gonna happen by itself.
Yeah, and a big part of the water problem was all of the other connecting
Right.
things. You know, the roof drains that were not connected to the storm drains, the storm drains that were jammed up.
But when do you lose
Pipes
power?
that leaked in the building.
When do you lose power? When there's a storm, when it rains, when it snows. So the water's gonna be there from above and below at the same time, and you definitely need those things running, I think, because you're going to rent space down there for storage as part of the, how they maintain and get funding for the building. And there's other, I mean, I have a problem.
Well, that's fine. I mean, you know, we're
Lonnie?
willing to entertain that, you know?
If you go with the lower cost option on the generator, would it be reasonable or even possible to set up an alert link to either the fire station or to dispatch that there is a power failure at the youth
We
center?
can look into that.
Because then they would get a
could look
definite
into that.
signal, you have to get up there,
Or water alarm as well.
alarm, you know.
I'm not trying to get off the generator system,
But you are.
but I am, yeah. I just want to ask a question with regards to the hood. It was my understanding you're not going to be cooking in there, is that correct?
No, the intent of the kitchen was for them to be able to do cooking classes, small cooking classes. The long-range plan has a stovetop and an oven, but a residential size stovetop and oven.
This is definitely not residential, this is commercial.
No, that is correct, and the reason is because without doing this type of system this system gives us a range that's to code without having to run a vent up through the roof and put another penetration
I
in the
have
roof.
no problem with the hood. My confusion rests with are we going to be in compliance with what we need to have? I think we visited this a couple of 3 weeks ago, Brian, with regards to a grease trap in that particular facility. If we're cooking, it's my understanding we need a grease trap, and I think there is a grease.
I raised that question at the meeting. The architect said, no, we're not going to that level.
Yeah, it's not a commercial kitchen.
I raised that specifically at the last committee
They're
meeting.
not gonna be doing any deep frying or
I
any,
mean, Jen and
you know-
Sydney are here, they can tell you. The idea for the kitchen is coming up from the youth commission. I mean, we're just trying to put together the facility that we're being told. I mean, I don't know what they're
I
gonna
just,
do.
you know, I just don't
They can
wanna-
explain to you what they're looking to do.
I just don't want us to invest in this and then suddenly find out we just can't use it.
And there's a Weber grill outside to cook.
Yeah.
I'm kinda stuck again,
That's a
because
good one. We'll have
I thought we couldn't cook hot dogs in the hot dog stand, because we didn't have a grease trap.
Right.
Right.
Correct.
So,
That,
we're
that,
gonna,
that was, that was, there was.
is that not correct?
We're going out from the youth center to the field.
No, but Brian, my point is, if we,
The
we were
conce-
told we need a grease trap if we're gonna cook hot dogs in a facility. Well,
No, the concession stand at the high school was built to basically replicate what had been done there previously. And they did not have a fryer later at
Well,
it previously. So
oh, so-
that's how the concession stand got constructed.
but my question is, what can
We're way
we
off base
make?
here.
No, but
guys. We're way,
Mark,
no.
my point is,
If
if
they're not
you
gonna-
need a grease trap,
If they're
do
not
we
gonna
need
cook,
it?
if they're
You
not
don't
gonna
need a
cook,
grease
you don't have a grease trap in your house. Okay, we don't have grease traps in our houses. If
Okay.
this is- And I'm not arguing for or against this, I'm just making a point. If this is a residential type installation with a cooktop and an oven, this is overkill, big time.
Well, it's overkill in that, it's got the fire suppression and everything right in the hood, and the recirculating hood. But otherwise, we would have had to drill through granite to get a vent up and poke another hole in the roof
Hey,
to
why?
vent out through the
There's
roof.
plenty of ventless, hoods. I have one
It
in my
wouldn't
house.
have, it wouldn't have met.
Most of us
it
have
wouldn't
one
met
that
the
don't go
code.
outside. What?
It wouldn't have met the code. They are supposed to go outside. They may not, but they are
In a
supposed
residential,
to.
in a residential building? I don't know.
I don't know, but Aldo raised that question the last time I was here. We had a committee meeting right after that, and I asked the architect square on that. With this kitchen that they're proposing, with what the youth center wants to do we need a grease trap? And the answer was unequivocally
Do
no.
you have that in the minutes of your meeting? I'm serious now. Do you?
I'll have to go back and
I would
check
ask, I
on
would
that.
ask that you do put that
Yeah.
in, so that if 6 months down the road, the youth center wants to do something in there, and we can't do it, then we can call Marcello and say, where do we send the bill?
Yeah, I know,
Okay?
yeah.
Really?
Call a building inspector. Ask him.
Well, the hood was reviewed by the building
Yeah,
inspector.
the hood was
did-
approved by the building
did-
inspector.
Oh, I'm sure it would be.
This
No
is what
question
we-
about it.
This is what we were told we had to have unless we want to start cutting holes in the granite and the roof that we just finished and sealed, which we really don't want to do.
My only concern was that we have this there, and we hopefully are going to do something with it, and then we just don't wake up one morning and say, well, you know, we thought we were gonna be able to do it, we had every good intention, we suddenly find we can't do it. So that's why if your architect says it, get it in the minutes, and keep them in the loop, because we can send them the bill.
I know,
If someone
yeah.
says that it has.
And it's dependent upon, you know, what Jen and Sydney and the Youth Commission have represented to us that they're looking to do in terms of the food.
Understood. I just, you know, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong at some point in time.
Well, that's
Put the numbers
been
in.
the theme of this project.
Yeah.
You know? I
That's
mean,
been my life for the last year.
You know, I mean, every rock, every wall you turn, it's like unbelievable what's there, you know? So, we're just trying to come forward, you know, we've had some real delays on some things that were totally unknown. You know, we obviously want to finish this. We've got a few other little items which we think would make real good sense to do, and that's why we're here, so, you know.
So,
Selectman Buckley, you had a question, comment?
Yeah, so I think it is a general consensus that we've got to finish this off right. And we're trying to do that in a way that's financially reasonable. The question about the grease trap, I think, is, my suggestion is that somebody consult the sewer department, because ultimately they decide what connections need grease traps and which don't. So that, just so we answer that question and get out of the concession stand discussion.
Okay.
We can do that.
Yep.
Sure.
I would definitely check on the vent, because I have the same thing. I have a ductless vent. I don't want John coming up in my house and finding me, but they sell them at Lowe's.
Right.
I know they do, because I have one in my house and he has one in his. So maybe I'm out of code and I'm gonna get
Well, I
a
mean,
fine in the mail, but
Your house.
they definitely sell
Well,
them.
this is the same
Well,
thing.
the
That-
the one thing that makes this hood more expensive is the fire suppression system.
No question. I mean, it sounds like
Yeah.
it's,
Not an
but
industrial kitchen.
if you're not gonna be doing that extensive cooking, like, it doesn't sound like you are. I mean, do we need something of that extent?
But I guess it could even happen if someone leaves a pan on the regular stove and boils over and, you know, you got a situation, you know?
Absolutely right.
So,
You do.
I mean, that's, and
Have the
in a
same
place like
situation at
this,
home.
you know, you don't have, there's a kid here and it doesn't take too long, you turn, you know what I mean? So, this is what we've been told. I'm not an expert on this, and she's
I'm-
not
I'm
either.
not, no.
And we're just doing the best we can to just drive this project, to try to get it to the things that make the most sense, and this is what they told us.
And we're trying to put in a good generator and reduce the rest of the costs.
Well, I mean, that's okay, you know, I mean, if that's something that you wanna do, then we'll get the architect going, but it's gonna have to be, you know, some infrastructure on the outside, and it's gonna cost some money.
And we'll have to have some redesign done too, so there will be additional design costs.
Mr. Chairman,
Sir?
where do we go from here? Do we wait for them to come back? We still have one more meeting before the
Well,
town meeting.
right now, we have to, yeah, we could put a TBD on this as well.
I think we need to, and just understand what we should really put in for numbers.
Well, I
I
mean,
think, Brian,
right
I
now-
I
think,
think the numbers are 229 plus 150.
well, maybe, no, maybe
no,
not.
Because you already have 20 in. I'd say it's 359, 838. Mark, you already have 20 in that number for the generator,
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
right,
so it's only 100, only.
right.
It's like
130.
saying this is only a $5.4 million building.
Right.
The word only is making me choke on this,
Well,
but.
but it does,
the way
shouldn't
it
come
goes
as anybody's
right now.
surprise as to, you know, the cost to renovate a 100-year-old building, right? And I think they're doing a
All right,
tremendous
so,
job.
It's
so it's
35,000
130, so
square
it's,
feet, too. This is
so
a
it's
sizable
three-
structure.
Brian, it's not
359?
how,
360.
it's just the number
I know.
is $5.5 million bucks. God, when we were kids, you could have bought Milford. You could have got Hopedale for free for $5.5 million.
Okay, and milk was a penny.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll put, yeah, we're gonna do that. Let's put in a TBD, estimate 360,000,
Yeah.
plus or minus. We'll bring it up on the 14th of October. We can get some real numbers, so when we do go to town meeting, we can at least stand up and do some intelligent discussion.
We'll talk to the architect and
Yep.
see what the
I'll have
cost
him-
would, if we get
I'll
them
have him
started on it, we'll
get
get them
going on
started
it.
on
If
it.
you wanna bring them in on the 14th, that'll be fine.
Okay,
Okay?
Yeah.
That'll help.
Would you like us to do that? Because we'd be happy to bring them in.
can do that.
It's a pleasure of the board. Yeah, I would
Do-
like to
do
talk
they
to them
charge
about
us?
it. Absolutely.
They will charge us for it, yes.
They'll charge us. but-
Add it to the 70,000 we're already
I'd
giving
like to
them.
have him on film.
Tell them they're making their commission on the big generator.
Right.
They should throw that one in for free.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you
TBD.
very
Thank
much.
you, Brian.
Thank you.
And then tomorrow, if anybody wants to go, we're gonna be there at 8 o'clock.
o'clock.
You know, come on by and take you through it.
All right, we have two articles left. Article 27 is FinCom article. FinCom recommendation to stabilization account is $3 million.
I'm gonna plug 3 million in?
3 million into the stabilization
Why don't you
account.
adjust that now, Mr.
How
Chairman?
can you do that?
I can do that. Why can't I do that?
Because you got 932,000.
I can absolutely put $3 million into the stabilization account.
That's a nice
And that's what we should do. We're gonna take, the plan is, yeah, come on up, Zach. The plan is to take 2 million and change of that and apply it to the loan to reduce the long-term debt by over $2 million when we bond it next year. And then about $750K, I believe, we're gonna put into the other stabilization account. Albert's $200K involved in that.
Yeah, no, Mark, the only thing I'm worried about is when I start with 5.7.
Why don't you look at Zach's
Yeah.
stuff?
Why don't we let the sponsors of the article present?
We are the sponsor.
We are.
I'm sorry, which one is this?
This is us, Bill.
Stabilization account.
Oh, stabilization, I'm sorry. I
This
thought
is
it was
us.
the other one, thank you.
No, we are the sponsors of the article.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I
Let's jump
believe
into the next
with,
one.
I'm sorry?
Now we're jumping to the next one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're not quite there yet. We had a finance meeting this afternoon with the finance director, myself, Chris, Rick, Brian was there,
Paul
and Paul was there.
and Chris Pillow.
And Chris Pillow was there, as treasurer. And we went over the recommendations, based on the information you have in front of you. It's changed a little bit because of tonight, but, I still think we're in relatively good shape. The only outstanding numbers would be the youth center number and the, Godfrey Brook number. So we're talking about another $750K to be spent. Okay, so go ahead, Zach, why don't you just go over what we had discussed this afternoon?
All right, so yesterday, last night, and tonight, we've basically been going over the merits of the projects, favorable, unfavorable. This, as Mark had said, we met today with the financial team. This is how we're gonna pay for it. For those of you who are not familiar with this document, this is what we've been using year after year, each town meeting, to proof out what we can and can't do. The important columns to note, if you're looking at the top, if you go right to the middle, raise and appropriate, and free cash. If you wanna go halfway down the list, or I'd say about a third of the way down, you're gonna see FY16 free cash certified and estimated levy capacity. That's the two funding sources that we could utilize if we so choose to. Next is all the articles going down. As Mark had also indicated, tonight we had a couple passovers and a couple that you're gonna take up at the next meeting. So that somewhat changes the plan from what we had earlier this evening. Right now, we're talking about the FinCom stabilization, which is Article 27. We're proposing a $3 million contribution from raise and appropriate. This number is three-pronged. It's important for three different reasons. The first is, and it lined up perfectly with the last time I was here. I was at the Selectmen, I was at the Executive Committee talking about the Woodland project and what our plans are for actual long-term debt. That is happening this year. In May, we plan on borrowing $28 million, and it's our intention to completely cap it at the $28 million. Am I saying that'll be our share? No, I am not. It most likely will be higher than that. We don't know the final reimbursement rate. We do not know what we're gonna get for an interest rate, and we do not know the final cost of the project. However, we feel comfortable around 28 million right now, and that's what we're planning on bonding. In the event it comes over, which is likely, 30 million, 31, we will be seeking a withdrawal from stabilization dollar for that exact amount, to pull out, apply to the project, and be completely finished with bonding this project. Capped at 28, that's only gonna help things over the life of the loan, 20 years, which we're anticipating, and keep it more manageable. The second reason why we're asking for such a large amount right now is basically hand in hand with going to actually bond this project. One of the biggest reasons we've been getting really good interest rates is because our reserves, specifically our stabilization account. You may be asking yourself, why not jump the gun right now and apply some of this money to the project right now? We're not gonna do that because this is only going to help the situation. One, we just borrowed 17 million. We don't need to do that right now for short term. Two, when we move forward to actually bond this, it's gonna put our reserves even higher. It's going to look very good, and we're gonna get a desirable interest rate because of that. This time next year, after the project's complete, we don't have a deficit at year end, we don't have to worry about free cash there. Project's complete, we know what our reimbursements is, MSBA squares up with us, we know what to do. We can pull out of there, apply it to the project then. The exact amount, no guesses, this is what it is, square up, done. Third reason, when this debt hits the books, which will be next year, FY17, it's going to be principal and interest somewhere in that range, 2.5 million to 3 million. Right now, what you're seeing on large borrowing is blended rates, meaning you may pay more up front, which is what you're seeing, and less later. So we might get a net interest rate of 3.5, 3.6, something like that. However, that doesn't mean that year one, when the most interest is due, we could be experiencing a 5.25 interest rate, which could trigger close to $3 million. Having it in raise and appropriate here is more or less my way of easing us in to a reality that will be happening next year. So that's the basis of why we're asking for such a strong contribution. And secondary, all of this does not have to go to the main stabilization account. We were supposed to talk about the split. We really haven't. We could do that right now if you'd like to. Be my recommendation that at least 2.25 go into the normal stabilization account. And if we wanted to put 750,000 into the other long-term account, a short-term account, I should say, that we could do that.
Plus, the other advantage of putting $2 million thereabouts to reduce the debt significantly alleviates some of the pressure on the stabilization account as we go forward. Remember, we have a 3.5 debt limit in the operational budget, and the plan was to put $500K on an annual basis into stabilization and take out the whatever is over the 3.5 million. So it'll be net 1.2 to 1.4 million on an annual basis. Because we've built the stabilization account up so well over the last 10 years, 12 years, preparing for this project, we will not be drawing the stabilization account down below about $8 or $9 million, worst case. And our basic rule of thumb is to have at least two times debt limit in the stabilization account, God forbid anything happens. So we'll be satisfying all of that, plus it will give us, in the future, probably 4 or 5 years from now, some serious capacity in case other things occur, to borrow on that, put it on the long-term debt schedule. So the plan that we worked out 5 or 6 years ago, going forward, is now come to fruition, and I think we've all done a hell of a job between the finance department, the accountant, the FinCom, and the treasurer. We've done a great job of preparing for this $60 million project with as minimal impact as we could possibly have. So, I mean, I'm happy with doing what we're planning here.
So
Yes.
this is, Zach, the plan is to raise taxes by 1.3 million to fund these line items. Raise and appropriate to me is raise taxes.
Correct.
Because if we didn't fund it the extra 1.3 million, then we wouldn't be asking people for another, whatever it is, $100 a piece.
Well, we'll get to that in the next.
No, because I'm just looking through, and when I took 5.7, saying that's what we got, there really isn't, now I know where your 3 million came from, because I'm $1.3 million short on how you fund 3 million into stabilization.
Right.
And you're saying we're gonna do that by raising taxes, or
Well-
raise and appropriate. To me, that's raising taxes.
In this article.
Okay. And you put in $2 million to the tax rate in this plan, okay?
So,
And the youth center, 1 million.
no, we're not, yes, we're paying the youth center off
Right.
1 million, correct?
So, yeah, it's just, now I understand. When I said the numbers didn't work,
Right.
I was coming up $1.3 million short.
Right, but you also,
I wasn't asking.
Tried.
right,
Yeah, no, I hear you. I just,
right. Remember, these numbers are not quite accurate anymore because the hazard mitigation plan is 56K as opposed to 50, so that's 6 up. The 3,000 on the compensation study, we're not gonna approve.
I already did this.
Yep, and the 360K for Godfrey Brook is gonna be passed over.
That pass over
I
to you.
updated everything, Mark, and I was coming out 1.2
Yeah.
something
Well, you
short.
went to Milford High School.
No, I have a computer.
We have to vote this?
Yes, absolutely, we need a motion.
Vote favorable.
Need a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right, one more. One more. Article 28, I believe.
If you just approve the number.
Yeah.
Mark,
a
with
moot
all due
point.
respect,
No, I
the
didn't.
plan has 2 million
Well,
in.
No, you didn't. There's a different sponsor and a different article.
Different sponsor,
No,
different
I'm
article.
just saying, we gotta be careful, because 27 has, the plan we just approved has 2 in it.
Article 28.
Go through, we should go to 28 first.
Who's gonna do the presentation? Chairman? Brian? 28. Tax rate.
What the selectmen asked the finance director to do at the last meeting was come up with a budget scenario that reflected a $2.8 million offset to the tax rate. And Zach did that with the spreadsheet that I think he supplied to all of you. And concurrently with that, he did another one at $2 million offsetting the tax rate and taking care of the town meeting articles that we know about. And I think you have both of those.
Yeah, we have both scenarios.
spreadsheets. So he's scheduled to come in Monday night so that the selectmen can go over it with him and see, you know, where we want to go in this particular article.
I don't know where to go here. I think that this plan actually does 2.8 million because we're going to plan on paying the snow and ice deficit in the spring. So instead of raise and appropriate, that would in fact be 2.8 million, plus or minus. So I'm good if you're good.
Yeah, the idea is, I think, in my conversation with Zach, is that we look at, when we had $3.2 million, we gave 1.8 back. We've got 5.7 in free cash, significant difference. Just from a ratio standpoint, would hope that, and I know, I'll give you my opinion, because when we voted on the 2.8, so I'll give you my rationale behind it, that the voters receive a significant portion of that, as they have in previous years, and somewhat relative to previous years' percentages. So the plans that Zach has drawn up are both reasonable, responsible, and something we have to vote on.
But not necessarily sustainable.
No, that's not true, Mark.
I said,
You're
I didn't say it wasn't, I said not necessarily sustainable.
What is sustainable, what's your definition
Let
of
me
sustainable?
address the first part of your comment. Yes, if you're going to go by percentage of free cash, then you're right, maybe we should give more money back to the tax rate, except that we have this elephant in the room that we would rather prudently reduce that debt, and the long-term advantage of doing that far exceeds, in my opinion, the money back to the the $800,000 or $1 million back to the taxpayer.
Yeah, you would ask me my opinion.
Right.
And
Well,
when we
and
throw around terms like prudent, and when we throw around terms like responsible, there are a lot of ways to skin that cat.
Right.
2.8 is, based on the spreadsheet I have, is responsible, prudent, and sustainable, in the sense that we've been telling people for a very long time that we wouldn't have to dig into our single stabilization count below 10 million. We started off, when we funded Woodland, and everybody came before the Board of Selectmen talking about a $3.8 million stabilization, drawing down to that level. Our finances have been so good and so robust, in large part because a lot of people are working very hard, that that number went up to a 5.6 and then went up to $10 million. So we've got sizable stabilization, we've got a significant number in free cash, and our town accountant has a number that allows us to responsibly come in at 2.8, which is what we asked him for. There's also a number that's being tossed around that's 2 million that Brian had proposed earlier. We'll look at those, and then we'll have to vote, as Brian said. I agree with Brian 100%.
Well, I just want to make sure that we all,
Well, excuse me, Mark.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. One thing that I kept hearing about over the last couple of weeks is sustainability. That was my question to Zach when we had our conversation. Sustainability is different than consistency. I'm not interested in consistency in the sense that if this was a banner year that because of strong receipts and good management, we have $5.7 million in free cash, then the taxpayers deserve to have a bigger piece of the pie directly to them prior to us doing all of our other things. We do responsible things. They're dealing with a 100-year-old armory. There's been a lot of surprises. We still have to do the project right. Taxpayer still deserves to get some relief, more than usual because of the amount of money. To me, it's common sense. They deserve it. When we've had 3.2, they've gotten 1.8. This is a banner year. Next year, if we have $3 million in free cash, then we won't be giving 2.8. We shouldn't be having that discussion. Right. So sustainability is a poor argument, and because it's more of consistent. So our consistency should be, as long as we can afford it, we give whatever we can afford or at that point in time. To me, it's a single picture in time. When I was on the school committee, I mean, the amount of money that we were talking about giving back to the taxpayer and where the board, my colleagues started and previous members starting with 500,000, we've come a long way. And as for Woodland, I just don't want there being confusion or people speaking out of both sides of their mouth in the sense that when we were gonna draw it down originally, again, when I was on the school committee and we were coming to you guys talking about how big and grandiose this school was gonna be and the price tag of it, we knew we were gonna be bringing down the stabilization account to what we all thought was an extremely low number, and we were still proceeding. Again, a lot of people in this room, plus others that aren't, have worked very hard and made very prudent, responsible decisions, and now we're talking about it could possibly get to 9 million. I don't think that's even gonna happen. And I don't think anyone here thinks that's gonna happen, because I think we're gonna continue to make the right decisions. So, but I do think that, and I went along with this at the board meeting, because that was the motion that was made, and it was about a plan, and we were gonna have a discussion. Seeing the plan for the half an hour that I've had it still leaves us with a good amount of money, and we're in a very strong state. So all I ask is, I would like to make sure that we send a clear message to the folks at home that pay their taxes. We have a 98% tax rate collection in this town. It's pretty impressive. They deserve a break too, and it should be bigger this year than it has in the past. So.
And in fact, it is. Last year, we had planned on putting 1 million to the account. 1.4 is what came up, and 1.8 is what we ended up with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, not because we plan on putting 1.8 there.
No, but
Okay,
but no one's questioning that.
But see, that's what happens typically when we're all said and done. More money gets put back to the tax rate because of the way things work out.
But they don't work out that way by accident, Mr. Chairman.
Say again?
They don't work out that way by accident, you know that. It's
Absolutely
conservative
right.
budgeting, estimates on
Absolutely
hotels,
correct.
estimates on SIs.
My concern, or our concern, I think, here is the concern that we always have with putting money back to the tax rate. If we put X amount of dollars back to the tax rate, and the following year we can't put that same amount of money back to the tax rate, what's the impact on the taxpayer?
Well, let me see if I have this right. We got $5.7 million in
No,
free cash. Hold
forget
on.
about that.
I wanna ask a question.
All right, go ahead.
We got $5.7 million in free cash. And your worry is, if we give 2.8 of that back, what happens next year if we don't have that?
Right.
So
What happens if we can't put the same amount next year to the tax rate of 2.8 million? What's the impact on the taxpayer? I asked that question.
You don't know.
Well, I do know.
No, you don't know.
Well, I have to make up that $2.8 million, or whatever difference I have. Correct?
Look at, if we're
We're
gonna
not
get
correct.
into a spiral argument about whether it's.
No, I'm
So,
not.
so I can make the argument about your $2 million proposal.
Absolutely
What's
right.
gonna happen next year?
That's right.
So the 2.8 is irresponsible and the 2 million is responsible.
Not
Is
sure.
that your argument?
No, I'm not sure it is.
Okay, just careful. That's my caution.
I'm not sure it is.
All right.
I think,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Brian.
We haven't voted on it. I thought the chairman characterized it pretty well, so.
I think that, all of us, and I'm sure we all realize, this year is somewhat of an aberration because of the healthcare buyback,
2.8
which
million.
really inflated the number more than it would in other years. And some of us have been around a long time, although Mark, myself, and I'm sure we can remember back to the years in the early 90s, there was negative free cash. So, this is not a guarantee. So when you have these kinds of opportunities, I think you need to look at it very carefully.
Agreed.
With the long-term plan in place,
Agreed.
which I think your committee's doing a nice job in setting this capital plan forward 5 years. So now, you need to view it through that lens to see how we can maximize this opportunity. Because yes, you could give money back to the taxpayer this year if you referred to it that way, but what are you hitting them on the backside in terms of interest and borrowing over 10 years, 20 years, whatever?
You're not.
So you're not really saving the taxpayer
plan
any
is
money.
not. This plan is not hitting them with backside or whatever.
Well, I don't know what to do. We have to take a vote on something.
Okay.
Well, we'll have the finance director in at our meeting Monday night. I'm very interested to hear his analysis. I mean, to me, on any type of project, I view the professional, I look to the professional for guidance. I did it on the school committee with teachers, I do as a selectman with the staff people we have. I have a lot of confidence in the finance director. I would ask him, what his suggestion would be, free of any constraint. If he was looking at it just in his own eyes, without any sort of leanings or influence either way, if he had his druthers, what would his recommendation be? And that's how these two plans came forward. So, when I hear that formulation, I'm going to be highly deferential to the recommendation of the official.
Okay.
That's my perspective.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more that I think it's time the taxpayers get their change. This year was a banner year, and I think that they should get their change. They put in the money, and there's money left over, and I think they need that money. And proportionally, I don't even think 2.8 is even enough proportionally. With that being said, I had a discussion with Zach today about a different way to get them the 2.8 million and gives us a little bit more flexibility on the money. And that would be that if this committee committed to paying snow and ice out of free cash and not raise and appropriate, because basically it's the same thing as giving them a tax break, because as soon as you put that in raise and appropriate, you're basically taxing them. So if you gave them the $2 million in tax relief, and then the $800,000 of the snow and ice we pay from free cash and do not raise and appropriate on that, to me, that gives us the flexibility of getting to the spring and seeing where our cash positions are, and it gets the tax relief that our taxpayers deserve. I'm sorry, $2 million is not enough. It's just not on $5.7 million. That's just my opinion. Maybe I'm crazy, but I don't think I am. And that plan of committing to pay for snow and ice out of free cash, I think, is a decent plan. And I talked to some other people and they agree, so I think that's something we should consider.
I think you're both on to the same point. We all agree we had a heck of a year and we ought to help the taxpayers. Now, what I don't know, and Brian, I'll agree, scary, I'm agreeing with you on this.
I agree with you a lot, Al. Why do you say such a thing like that? I agree, you're a great
When you said-
photographer.
It's only because Freckle-Nose got good pictures.
Oh, thank you.
I think Zach is the guy to come back and say, okay, I haven't heard really effective 2 million. Because I heard you say 2, but we're gonna pay down the Woodland debt by not borrowing some by over $500,000. So right now, mentally, I'm thinking that's 2.5. I'd like to see you come back and say, here are the options, because Bill's 2.8.
Well, I have two spreadsheets in front of me that give me two responsible plans. Chris presented a third, and frankly, if we discussed it long enough, we could come up with 7. My point is, if we responsibly come up with a method to apply money to the tax rate, the selectmen vote on their article, which we have to do, then we can come back to you and tell you what it is. Both devised by the accounting team and, in front of you, I think in front of you tonight. You have both spreadsheets? Okay.
If I could finish?
I'm sorry?
I think we're on to the right track, which says philosophically, whether you're not raising my taxes
Right.
for snow, whether you're doing this, not borrowing more for Woodland, I don't care what the fancy words are. I want to know the check I'm writing. And I'm okay with explaining to somebody that this year I'm getting a one-time break.
Yeah.
Because you're not borrowing as much, or you're not taxing me for snow. But Zach, I agree with, Zach's the guy. Come back to us and say, here is the plan, because the plans I've seen from you make sense. There are things that we have said we want to put in for the long term. I see them in there, in the short term, long term, whatever we're calling the capital. There's a little bit for the fields. There's a little bit, the 300 for IT, because if we can get that leverage 3-to-1, that just makes all the sense in the world. But Zach, you're the guy who's gonna give us rational, emotion-free options. Once we have that, then I can have an informed opinion.
Well, you have the two spreadsheets. Those are rational and emotional free.
So now you turn around and say, let's look at it, and somehow, right now, we're arguing over 2.5, 2.8, it's a couple $100,000. I think you're gonna close that gap, and we're all gonna be happy, whether we call it tomato, as long as my check doesn't go up any more than it has to, then I think we're okay.
And what that actually translates into a tax bill is really even a more minuscule amount than that. When you're talking about differences on that level.
So, what do you think, Zach?
I think you're talking probably $60 between
Right.
the $800,000 difference
Right.
But it's not our 60.
on the average tax.
It's not our 60. It's 60 from people who are residents.
Yeah, correct.
And they should get their change.
And they should get their 60, because to some of them, Zach, I'm sorry to pontificate, but it means meds, means dinner.
What do you think, Zach?
So what we're talking about here is an opportunity cost. So can we do 2.8? Absolutely. Can we do 2? Absolutely, obviously. If you look at either plan, one carries
2.5.
The numbers are different.
Which obviously is a little different. That's important to note too.
It's 2.2.
Some of these numbers came off, which is gonna directly increase what excess levy capacity is gonna be right off the bat, without even talking about, offset tax rate, levy relief. So, right off the bat.
Yeah, I want it for free cash.
300,000 before we even discuss.
We just paid for snow and ice with a Passover.
I'm sorry?
We just passed over $360,000.
Snow and ice is 820,000.
Right.
Well, and make sure we know too, this
Right.
820 is mandatory to be raised right now. Has
Right.
to be.
Right,
Yes.
that's for last year's
Right.
deficit.
Last year.
That's what we already
year's number.
spent.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, this, and we did not clear it with free cash last year, so
Right.
therefore we have to raise this, have to.
Right.
Which is why, and you said it, we had a discussion, this has kind of been in the back of my mind for months now. With a number like this, it would be fantastic to plan now to offset whatever snow and ice deficit there may be. And you used 800, it might not be 800, it could be $1 million, it could be 100,000. But that is something that we certainly should be planning, and could be achieved either way, obviously. But that is obviously something that we should be trying to do, which again is taxpayer relief in itself. If we're not raising it, we're taking care of it now, then that achieves more or less the same objective. You see highlighted number 6, 82,000, likely that may get passed over as well. That will end up as excess levy capacity as well.
But we're gonna end up paying that in the spring, so.
Right.
That money's coming, with all due respect.
Yeah.
That's not, this year, that money's gonna hit.
That money's
Well,
spent,
in
basically
spring.
spent.
In both scenarios, it's
Right.
covered.
Right.
Right.
In spring, however, that's, the tax rate is set, that's gonna come from free cash. Again, why it's smart to leave a balance of free cash, and supplementing anything in the spring must be from free cash. Other than that, you raise and appropriate the next year.
Right, and we have more things in the spring. We have 900,000 potential on Godfrey Brook that we have to pay off.
That's the thing.
Okay, we
Because
have,
Godfrey Brook is not going away.
not going away. I mean, we've committed to the project, so we either gonna bond that 900,000 or pay it off. And the objective would be to pay it off with the out of the 2.2 or 2.3 million we have left.
Look, that's also why we're doing all the prudent things for sizable stabilization funds and a whole host of things. I don't want to pull the panic button and say, if we have to spend 900,000, we're in trouble.
No, we're not in trouble.
And if I could, Mr. Chairman, I just want to add one more thing. I mean, I appreciate Al's comments about $60, what that means to someone else, and it's, for the most part, taxpayers. I'd rather have them have their $60 than us, but it's more than that. Over the years, my colleagues, and again, past selectmen, and now I guess I'm part of that, obviously, that we've stopped local government from growing. This has been said each one of these years. You guys have done that by starting off many years ago and every year giving and putting money back to the tax rate. With $2 million or $2.8 million, what is that total? It's got to be near $14 or $15 million right now. I don't mean to throw a little ad out there, but $15 million over the years, or pretty close. You've stopped local government by growing by. That's a lot of money. Again, that's what this is about. It's not just about the $60 difference or the $224. You've actually had a huge part in stopping local government growing by that much. That's a lot of money. So that's also a benefit that we're doing to our taxpayers as well, because that continues to grow as well. So giving it back is a huge benefit, and this year it's got to be a bigger piece.
Also keep in mind that right now, we have a couple estimates that we normally don't have a reality on until the tax rate is actually set, and that's the overlay account, which the assessors are in charge of, and also the assessors are in charge of new growth as well. So right now, we have that at $700,000. It's likely it's going to be closer to $800,000. Again, excess level capacity.
But that's every year. That saves us.
But we budgeted only 400,000 over the years because we got burned twice, okay?
Smart.
And, you know, the issue is not to be not conservative.
Right.
The question, and we had this discussion this afternoon, is we budget the following fiscal year based on this fiscal year's receipts, both state and local. And with this situation that we have this year, it's going to be difficult, in my opinion, for us to budget for 17 based on this year's receipts.
I have confidence in you, Mark.
No,
Somehow we're
I have
turning,
confidence
somehow
in
we're
Mark.
turning $5.7 million
I love-
into a
I
bad
love that
thing.
we have this,
I'm
this
trying
is
to
our
figure out how to
problem.
get
We're
there.
very lucky that this
We're
is
not
the
turning
problem we have
$5.7
going.
million.
How many
But I
towns
would,
be
I would,
upset?
I would, I'm sorry, but I would stop saying we have 5.7 million that we planned for. We didn't.
Didn't say that.
2.8 million of that was an extraordinary situation that will never occur again,
Wait a minute,
okay?
I mean, every
So
year.
we're really at 3 million, which is where we normally are.
Mark, but if I might, from an accounting standpoint, it wasn't as if the holiday, the health insurance holiday, wasn't known to accounting and wasn't automatically dropped into the account and understood
But
to
it
be a
was-
positive variance.
That's correct, 1 year.
He's doing his, I understand.
Okay.
We keep
One
saying
year.
the same thing. We're into a spiral like
One
that.
year.
Yes, and so that 2.8 million, we've already given back to the employees, not necessarily the taxpayers, okay? So we're all set. I'm not gonna argue with you guys.
Hey, Mark, when I was first asked by the local
Because
media
here's
what
the
I
deal.
thought, I thought anything at over 2 million was an unbelievable number. I'm looking at 2.8, and I'm also looking at the bottom line. I can't believe that we can afford to do this, but you know what? We can.
We can.
It's
Well,
amazing.
You gotta watch the
I
bottom
never
line.
thought I would be a part of even having this conversation.
You gotta watch the bottom line, and at the end of the day, I'm not going to sit, I don't think this committee will sit and argue with the elected officials of this town on what they wanna do. If their prerogative is to do 2.8 million back to the tax rate, so be it. They're the ones that are gonna have to stand up and manage that going forward.
We're not
That's
gonna-
fine with me.
We're not gonna separate, we'll still work together with you guys.
Yeah, no, we're not anymore, we're done.
It's not a divorce.
We're done.
We got two responsible plans.
I can't table it. We have to
Talking
make a
the
decision.
same numbers, play two different ways, okay.
I don't know what, I mean, I don't know how to
Why
take a
can't we
vote on
say 2.8 is
this.
2.8?
To what? What are we gonna present to town meeting?
No,
We don't have a number at this
We
point.
don't have a number.
Wait till the 14th.
Yeah.
The sponsors of the article don't.
We'll-
That's why we can.
I'd recommend, you have two others you're gonna take up at the 14th.
Yeah.
Well-
Let me do my presentation.
We'll table it.
on Monday.
We'll come back.
Wait till the 14th.
We'll come back.
Any new business? Thank you, gentlemen.
Motion for
okay.
adjournment.
Thanks.
Move we adjourn, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
In favor? Oh, you devil, you.
She's the only one I'll kiss around.